You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to the end of the week, y'all. We like to call it Friday around here, and we got a sound effect for that one. Friday! Yeah, it is. We're going to get you all the way to go home time on a Friday afternoon. In the meantime, pushing buttons so ably on the board, JP. Hey, buddy. How are you?
I'm dimming today. Celebration Friday.
It is Celebration Friday.
Celebrating Phil's phenomenal 4.5 years on radio. That is what today is.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's awesome. It's I cannot believe, by the way, this, if you haven't already heard, this is my last show. We have passed the torch earlier this week. We talked about the fact that JP and Allison Sinclair and Amy Beth Shaver are now going to be taking the helm of Rightside and moving it into Rightside 2.0, and it's going to be amazing. But that being said, the season of my life that I'm in right now is shifting. God has opened a door, and the president has called, and we feel like we have to step through. And so this is my last time with you as the host, owner, president of Rightside Media, Rightside Radio, and it's going to be a fun ride. We're gonna walk through it. There's going to be some bittersweetness today, I know, including the monologue here in a few minutes. But I've got a lineup of people coming through. I'm not calling it a triple dipper today. I've got personalities y'all have gotten used to over the years: Birdman, Dale Jackson, Jeff from Indiana, Emily Jones, Scott Buttram, Ernie Yarbrough, and the lovely Charlene will all be joining us on air today. So just stay tuned. We're gonna talk. We're gonna memorialize. We're gonna celebrate, and we're gonna also just have some good times. And I'm pretty sure people are bringing cake to the studio, just so you know.
Now that's what's most important here. Sorry for the listeners; they can't have any.
That's okay. We'll tell you how good it is.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, listen. I'm going to jump on into the Rightside Way opening monologue. Let me just remind you guys, as always. Stan McDonald is a partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee, a longtime veteran of the practice of law in North Alabama. He is, oh, by the way, a super long-time conservative as well, like an OG ruffian from way back. But yeah, Stan McDonald is the daily sponsor of your Rightside Way monologue. And I'm going to tell you more about Stan here in just a few minutes. But in the meantime, let me just kick this. Today starts the end of a season. Today will be the last day that I'm chairing the show and serving as the full-time host for Rightside Radio. It's bittersweet for Charlene and I got to tell you, because we have loved being with you guys daily for these past 4.5 years. We're told in Ecclesiastes 3, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. And this is just a changing of the seasons. But it does make me mindful of how much we have and have had together. But I got to tell you, I also see the bigger picture. I see where I'm going, and I see why I'm going. And I think I have a little bit of insight of how important it is that I'm going. And I don't know what I don't know, but I do know this: my God is large and very in charge, and he knows what's best, and this season must end so that another one can begin. Having said all that, it made me mindful of other times in my life that things were good, but they had to change so that something better could start. If you've listened to this show for just a bit, you may recall from past broadcasts that I'm a car guy. I love hot rods and classic muscle cars. There's a reason why the special number that y'all use to call in or text the show ends with 68 right. It's because I was given the option by the telephone company to use numbers that they gave me a list of choices on, and one of them jumped out at me because my first car, my first baby, of which a picture still sits on my shelf, was my hopped up Arctic White 68 Mustang. And I got to tell you, that car, man, I didn't see it coming. My dad surprised me one day in high school. I couldn't believe it. It came along at a time when I thought I was going to continue to drive his old station wagon through my teen years, and man, along came a 68 Mustang. Raised the hood, there was a 289 small block board 30 over with an Edelbrock aluminum intake and a Holley 4-barrel carburetor, Hooker headers, Mallory distributor. Oh, yeah. I added some Krager mags and a decent stereo, and I cruised all over Huntsville in high school. I drove it to college. I took it to cruise nights. More than once, that car was filled up with friends or with kids from Young Life. I even asked the lovely Charlene to marry me in that car. Very unromantic, but it also shows you how much I love my car and my wife. And I learned a lot with that car. I learned how to turn a wrench, change a tire, swap out a cam. I drove it like the Dukes of Hazzard. More than once, I drag raced on the wide streets of South Huntsville. I left skid marks on every street in our zip code. That was a cool ride, too, let me tell you. Everybody gave it a second look. And it was also one of those distinctive rides that people could see coming, and they knew it was me. I also had a serious love-hate relationship with it. I'm not kidding. Love-hate relationship with that 68 Mustang. It leaked fluids on the driveway. The electrical system had bugs in it. At least once the engine caught fire, but it was my baby. It was my baby. It was my first love. And I had planned on driving it into my retirement years. Eventually, I got a truck to do my day-to-day driving in. The Mustang only fired up on occasional outings on the weekend and that kind of thing. But I still love that car. But then came the day that Charlene and I found out the joyful news that we were expecting our first child. Y'all, I was married at 21. I was a dad by 23. I didn't know any more about life from Adam's house cat. It was also rather unexpected, especially since Charlene was actually using birth control, but apparently when God has notions, things happen, and we were suddenly entering parenthood whether we wanted to or not. But you know what? We wanted to. It was good. I was going to be a daddy, and that was okay, except we didn't have good insurance. I mean, like at all. We hadn't planned on this. So the bare bones health insurance we had at the time didn't have a pregnancy rider on it. But according to our doctor, the rough cost of labor and delivery was going to be about the rough price I could get if I sold my Mustang. So we talked about it. We anguished just a bit. And then we realized that it was what needed to happen. So my Mustang season was drawing to a close. But y'all, I got to be honest with you, it did not go easy. I'm pretty sure that car didn't want to part from me any more than I wanted it to. I found a willing buyer. The day was set. They were coming to pick up my baby, my Mustang. And that's when the Holly 600 4-barrel carburetor decided it was done. So with hours to spare on a Saturday morning, I found a good old boy garage that would rebuild the carb for me. They got it done by noon. They charged me an arm and a leg. But when I picked it up, they had got it covered in grease. Grease was everywhere. Greasy handprints all over it. And on the way home, the electrical system shorted out, blew a fuse, so the blinkers and the radio quit working. I ran home. I started cleaning it with 409 and bleach water, trying to get the grease off that Arctic white paint job. Charlene ran to the auto parts store to get me a fuse kit. Just as I finished scrubbing it down and getting it pretty again, she pulled in the driveway with the fuses. I popped one in, fired it up, everything worked. And literally, right then, the buyer pulled up, because timing's everything. Well, a few minutes later, we signed the bill of sale. They handed me cash money, the exact amount that was needed for the cost of labor and delivery for our first child. And then I stood there on the front porch and I watched as my Mustang drove away. I mean, it was sure to give some great times and memories for those who were going to drive it next. I felt sure, but it was still very bittersweet. I loved that car. And oh man, that car frustrated me. It ran me ragged. It cost me an arm and a leg to keep it going, but it was cool. And I learned a lot in it and with it, and the memories are still there. And I also have no regrets because, you know, I could see the bigger picture. I sold that baby so we'd have our first baby if you get down to it. And that little man, he became one of the joys of my lifetime. My son, Josh, who is now 36 years old, a major in the Army, married to a beautiful, godly woman, the father of my 2 perfect grandchildren. Could I have kept my Mustang? Maybe so. But we were young and poor, but we were also bold and rich in spirit. And we could see the right thing to do. The right thing to do in that case was to allow the seasons to change and watch what God did next. And that, my friends, is how I feel about Rightside. I did not see this coming. 4.5 years ago, I thought I was going to rock along as a lawyer and a former legislator doing policy work, just growing old. And then along came a call one day from Dale Jackson, who asked if I'd consider doing a show. Well, that turned into a whole thing. We founded Rightside Media as a subsidiary company of the Alabama Policy Institute. And it was immediately a love-hate relationship, let me tell you. On the outside, it was still pretty cool. We quickly became a top-ranked show with an amazing audience full of folks that we all still call Rightside Ruffians. Everybody everywhere seemed to know about it, hear about it, be a part of what we were doing, and I learned so much. I didn't anymore know about radio from Adam's house cat, but I learned what it means to pattern out a show and prepare every morning in the wee hours to have resources ready so my audience could tell that I was putting some time into researching and resourcing what I said on the air. Every single day, y'all, for the last 4.5 years, I spent 2 to 3 hours every morning getting ready to do a 3-hour broadcast, which also included, by the way, a daily Rightside Way monologue like this one, typed out to a full 5 pages each time, because I learned that it took 5 pages to land exactly on the advertising break. But it also took 5 pages for me to get my thoughts out for you. On days when my other full-time job as a lawyer required me to be somewhere else in the mornings, I just did Rightside work late at night. But over time, we grew. We added stations to the lineup. We saw God expand our territory, and then I began writing. And for the last 3.5 years, because of Rightside, I spent every single Saturday morning writing an op-ed that has been regularly published in up to 18 different regional news outlets and almost weekly in USA Today nationally. Then came CNN appearances and then podcasts. But behind the scenes, I got to tell you, that love-hate relationship that I talked about earlier, well, that love-hate relationship sometimes kept me up at night. I mean, selling ads, seeking investors, juggling the schedules, missing time with family. But I loved it. I loved it, and I felt like we were making a difference and we were impacting culture. And then we got the news most recently that the president wanted to nominate me for a role that I also did not see coming. I didn't seek it out, but it quickly became a thing. And so we prayed and we anguished and we recognized there was a bigger picture and that this season for us would now draw to a close. And so just like my Mustang, I feel like I'm standing on the front porch watching as Rightside drives away. Sure to give some great times and memories for those who drive it next, but it's still bittersweet because I love this work. I mean, it frustrated me and it ran me ragged and it cost me an arm and a leg to keep it going, but it was cool. And I learned a lot in it and with it, and the memories are still there. And I also have no regrets because I can see the bigger picture. I mean, could I have kept doing Rightside? Maybe so. We're not necessarily young and poor anymore, but I'd like to think that we're still bold and rich in spirit, and we can see the right thing to do. And that's to allow the seasons to change and to watch what God does next. So, having said all that, Charlene and I love you with all the love of the Lord. And God is still very much on his throne. So for now, that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Well, I'm going to tell you, that's how I feel. It literally is a season. It's the thing we had to do. It's the bigger picture we could tell. And I'm stoked about the manner in which God brought together Rightside 2.0. That's nothing but good. That being said, it's way bittersweet. At the same time, it's a celebration, and that's the way we're looking at it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, folks, you're going to enjoy this one. I just had a conversation with Brian Dawson from 1819 News, president and CEO of an up-and-coming company that is making a huge splash in the state of Alabama. But listen, you're going to be amazed by his personal story. Brian Dawson, you talk about rags to riches. You talk about somebody who's been redeemed. You talk about a guy who was looking at life in prison, who now has an amazing family, an amazing life, an amazing testimony of how the Lord has redeemed him, and who is, oh, by the way, making a huge difference in our state. Stay tuned. Just Right podcast coming up next. Yeah, let's do a show.
1, 2, 3, hey!
Brian Dawson, how you doing?
Doing good.
Good. I got notes, dude.
All right.
I'm gonna start with a sort of introduction. All right.
Hit me.
You was born and raised outside the state of Alabama. Spent a lot of your time in Colorado Springs. Am I right?
Yep. And Derby, Kansas. Those are the two places.
Does that make you a carpetbagger if you came from out west?
No, west is not north.
Okay.
So yeah, carpetbaggers only come from the north.
All right. So you're allowed.
Yeah.
You were a white suburban kid.
Correct.
But your parents divorced when you're young. I know that. I can relate to that. But then there's this period of your life. We'll talk about it in detail here in a minute. You've been very candid in some of the other interviews and discussions I've even had with you. Crime, drugs, drinking.
Sure.
And then there became time when you were even involved with drug cartels and other things and spent time in prison.
Yep.
At one point, I know you were facing like just short of 400 years potentially in prison. But then you found Jesus. You found a beautiful woman. You found purpose. You found parenthood like 7 times.
Correct.
And
It's the number of completion, Phil.
Oh, well, there you
They
go.
say perfection and completion.
Speaking of which, we're going to get to the initials of all your kids' names too, which is very cool. And then now it's radio, media, 1819 News, president and CEO. So let's start. All right, let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
Early childhood, dude. How did you get to where you went?
Yeah. So interesting thing. I always like to. The more I learn about people and get to know people and everything, I realize who they are, where they're from, who their parents are matters a lot. And I also think, well, I'll just kind of go into that. So my dad is from West Monroe, Louisiana. He is a swamp redneck. He grew up with Phil Robertson.
Duck Dynasty.
Duck Dynasty, okay.
Yeah.
Phil was about 7 years my dad's senior, and so Phil was the camp counselor at Camp Chioka in Louisiana. And so, my dad was like 10 and Phil was like 17 at the summer camp or whatever. But my grandma, Memu, as we call her, Betty Dawson, taught Sunday school with Miss Kay for 30 years at Whites Ferry Road Church of Christ in West Monroe, Louisiana. So I say all that because it's neat on one hand that my family is close with their family or whatever, but also to give you, like, everybody knows the Robertsons and the swamp redneck thing, right? Like, they're swamp rednecks with money. But prior to them having money, there was a saying in West Monroe that the only people that were more poor than the Dawsons was the Robertsons. Okay, and the Dawsons was po, like they were super poor. Okay, I would joke and say
they changed that over time.
Yeah, so they did. My dad not so much. That's okay though. Went the middle class route, but my dad, swamp redneck from Louisiana. Grew up. I always say back when poor people were skinny, had to hunt for food, garden, like so. That's that side of my family. And then on the other side, there's my mom. My mom. And we'll kind of get into a little bit more of her background later in the story as it's pertinent. But she was the daughter of a state senator in Colorado, Colorado Springs specifically. And so my grandfather was a state senator. He ran for governor. He ended up running for Congress against Joel Heffley in Colorado. That was the only politics I was around for. All that happened before I was born, except for the run for Congress. And he has a country club background, right? And so you mix this swamp redneck with this country club, and this is where you get this amazing pedigree that sits before you.
Had this sort of Romeo and Juliet feel to it.
Yeah, I guess so. But that I really do think that plays a lot into who I am and how I go about things, but for better or for worse. But yeah, so they couldn't have been more different, and they got divorced when I was 2, right? Like who didn't see the writing on the wall with that one? So they got divorced when I was 2. Courts put me with my mom. That's kind of the knee-jerk reaction of the court system. At least it was back then. I don't think it's changed that much now. The knee-jerk reaction is give kids to mom. And had they have done any type of due diligence whatsoever and looked into the situation, they would have seen that that was not the best place for me. And so when I was 2 years old, boom, I'm now living with my mom, seeing my dad every other weekend. And
where were y'all living then?
This was Colorado Springs. Okay. Yep. And so, my mom, God bless her, I love her. She did the best she could with what she had, right? And so I've worked through a lot of unforgiveness with my mom and with my dad, and but just forgiving them and me thinking, I've forgiven them, but it's like, no, really. And then once you've forgiven them, you can actually see the appreciation that they did everything they possibly could. Now that I have kids, I see. But my mom had a very rough childhood, though she was from country club, lineage. She was sexually abused as a child. She,
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. Hey, got to tell you about Stan McDonald real quick, of course. Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee, a 30-year veteran in the practice of law, you guys. Practices in North Alabama. Look, not only is Stan like a great advocate for your legal needs, I can just tell you for a fact he is, but he's also, oh, by the way, a long time like OG ruffian. The man has been in the trenches, in the fray, in the mix for goodness knows how long on all the conservative policies and politics that right side ruffians care about. So that being said, Stan McDonald, yeah. You need an attorney in North Alabama. Let me just tell you right now, he's represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He can stand up for you in any local, state, or federal court. I always say, if Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So that being said, if you need an attorney in North Alabama, y'all, I'm going to give you his phone number. Attorney Stan McDonald. The law firm is Wilmer and Lee. He's an America First family man. And here's his number, 256-533-0202. That's 256-533-0202. And you got to tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. And no representation made with quality legal services would ever be bad because it's bad. Why is it bad? It's not bad. It's not bad. It's Rightside Radio, and he's a Rightside ruffian, and he's Stan McDonald. So, boom.
I think I timed that right when you said
did.
boom.
Boom. We just hit it together. That was cool. All right. Hey, listen, we got a ton of text messages. I will do what I can. We got all kinds of people lined up to call in today. But I appreciate, I can see the messages coming through. So even if I don't get to yours, I just want you to know I'm seeing them, and I will get to all that I can. You got some on your side too, I think, over there too. So
we got John from Huntsville saying, I'm going to miss you, Phil. You're definitely one of a kind, and the show won't be the same without you.
Well, it doesn't have to be the same. It's still going to be good. But thank you, John. I appreciate you. And by the way, John, you have become part of the fabric of this show. I mean, we have so many ruffians that their names just like roll off the tongue. And what I really love is when I meet somebody somewhere and they'll walk up and say, hey, I'm so-and-so from so-and-so place. And I'm like, oh, name with a face. That's great. This is awesome. But John from Huntsville, thank you so much for doing stuff every day with us on the air.
And then I think this is Allie from Athens from the name, but just as a source of strength and a true friend.
Oh, thank you. Allie, appreciate that. In fact, she texted over here, so maybe it was the same. She says, Colonel, Ranger, Pastor, and Counselor, you have been, and I quote, a friend amongst friends. So thank you, Allie. Steve from Tennessee says, the Lord has allowed you to move up to a higher seat. Remember what Mordecai told Esther. You are answering the same risky call from above. Go protect us again. Steve from Tennessee. Steve, I appreciate you, man. Your texts are always so cool. Dave from Capshaw says, will your next gig affect whether or not you put out a book of your monologues? I hope not, because I've about got it ready. I got to figure out, how do you publish? I don't even know what to do next, but yeah, listen, I will be letting you know. I'll pass the word through JP and the ladies. Junebug from Hartselle says, goodness, I'm so thankful for the peace your show has brought during unstable times for our country. It's been a source of strength to know that, you as a grounded Christian stood for the same values that my family and I share. No matter how crazy the news of the day was, I knew you would bring peace and calm in the storm. Thank you so much for all you've done. May God bless you and Charlene. Thank you for continuing to serve on behalf of all the people. May God always give you strength, wisdom, and blessing. Wow. Okay, this is going to be, it's a celebration day, but I'm going to go and get a box of tissue and bring it into the studio, man.
That's okay, but they're happy tears.
Yeah, sure enough. David from Huntsville just said, you're the man. Thanks. And I said, thank you to you, David. Jenkins from Sneed, Alabama says, you ever been to the Mustang Museum in Odenville? A bunch of cool cars. I have not. In Odenville? I did not know of this. All right, now I got to figure it out. Jenkins, thanks for the heads up, man. Odenville's not far from me, too. I can do that. Big Shad from Hartselle says, Colonel, outstanding monologue. May God bless you and your family in your new adventures. Thank you, Big Shad. And Roughly Ann from Huntsville says, God be with you, Phil. I will pray for you often. Roughly Ann, you are a blessing. Thank you, sister. And then Adam from Athens says he's trying to try and call in today. And I'll be honest with you guys, just so you know, I got so many lined up scheduled callers. If you don't make it through today, please understand that was partly by design, because I've scheduled a bunch of people who have been guest hosts and podcasters over the years to be on too. So Adam, thank you for that though. Ray from Hartselle says, great monologue, Phil. You will certainly be missed. Best of luck on your new adventures. I know you'll do well. All right. Is the music playing? Yeah, I hear it. All right, preacher got to quit preaching. We're running for a break. We'll come right back. I do believe Birdman and my lovely little Caitlin is going to be in the studio. Y'all stay back at 10-2. We'll be right back.
All kinds of abuse and just horrible. And, so she had a lot of trauma in her life that she never dealt with. And so I'm living with her, and the solution to every problem that she has is another man. And so I ended up with like 5 or 6 stepdads. I lost count. Okay. Now I will say, I know there's no way you haven't seen the movie or read the book, Hillbilly Elegy.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So that was my life to a T with my mom. That was my life to a T. We watched that movie, and my mother and I were like, this is like maybe 6 months ago, we watched the movie.
Together?
No. Okay. But I mean, I watched it. I was a wreck. My wife's looking at me. My oldest son, who's watched it with us, is like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "Yeah," it was a wreck. And I told my mom about it. My mom watched it. She's like, "Oh my gosh," it was like PTSD watching it, because it was so on point with that 2 to 10 years with my mom. And I always make the joke, me and JD Vance are the same person, except JD Vance, he got into the Marines and went to Yale, and I got into drugs and went to jail. But other than that, same person. But yeah, and so when I was that went on, watching my mom get drunk, taking pharmaceutical drugs, I watched her get beat by some of the men that she was with. just not good formative years from 2 to 10, right? And so by the time I'm 10, I get into a big fight with my mom, and she, despite many court battles for my dad to get custody of me that he continued to lose, my mom just let go and said, you can go live with your dad. And so when I was 10, I went and moved with my dad, and he was living in Wichita, Kansas. He worked at Cessna for the bulk of his career in Wichita, Kansas.
So I got to tell you, and sometime I'll tell you my whole story, but I didn't wind up in jail, but I was headed there.
Yeah.
Parents divorced when I was young, lived with my mom, did not respond well to multiple marriages. Mom finally gave me the ultimatum as we had a big blow up. She sent me to live with Dad, who, by the way, was living in London, England, as an Army officer. And so I like to say God had to give me a 3-year timeout away from everything that I was used to for me to find him.
Yeah.
Of course, you had a 384-year timeout coming.
Potentially, yeah.
So let me ask you, you're living with your dad. I researched before I sit down with you, and I'm watching other interviews you've done and stuff. And you said in one case that your dad's level of discipline and household, management was more what you needed, but you still wound up going down some roads.
Sure.
So you were, and I got to say, in going through all the news stories and things, your mugshot came up at some point.
A bunch, yeah.
And you were just a normal looking high school dude. You didn't have like body piercings and face tats, and you weren't doing gang signs in the mugshot. You just looked like a high school football player, which you were. Am I right?
Yeah.
But you also had this sideline gig of doing things that got you in big trouble.
Yeah. No, I'm an all-in guy. Whatever I'm into, I'm all into it, and that's just the way I'm wired, and it was no different than that. And so, going to the structure that my dad provided, but me still falling, I think that was a great tee up. I've never thought about it in those terms, and it actually makes a lot of sense. So, I'm 10. I move in with my dad. He's still not a Christian to this day. So if you're listening, pray for my dad. But he put a roof over my head. He got up every day at 4:30 in the morning and went to work. He showed up to my football games. We ate dinner every night around the table. Okay. He was what he was supposed to be as a father, and he didn't have a father. His dad abandoned them, his siblings. So he never had a dad. And so the gaps that he was filling in were those real basic gaps that he completely lacked, which was the providing, the protecting, those type of things. And so he generationally fixed that, that basic blocking and tackling gap that a father is supposed to provide. But some of the areas where I'd say, and I don't mean this disparagingly, where he fell short, he's not a real good communicator where he can sit down and say, son, let me talk to you about manhunters. Son, let me talk like that. Those weren't his things. He showed up and he did what he was supposed to do. And I'm very, very grateful that I had the time with him that I did. It definitely shaped and molded me. But when from 2 to 10, which they call formative years, those are formative years, right? And your formative years are not very formative. You carry baggage. And so I'm with my dad in this structure, carrying that baggage. And so I would get straight A's on the report cards, and I thrived in that structure, and I did good in sports. But underneath, I was angry. And my stepmom would always tell me, she's like, you're so angry. Why are you so angry? And she didn't understand. And I was angry at the world. And I was never really comfortable in my own skin. I had a lot of insecurity issues. And the only time I ever...
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This show goes like from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. And I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. All the way down to that loveless little village on the plains we call Auburn, War Eagle. Straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. Big old patches in North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. Then there's all y'all in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web, logging in on the live stream, audio and video on places like X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then there's all y'all that podcast, because we have now hit well over 370,000 downloads of the podcast of this show because of all you guys out there that catch it after the fact. So all I'm saying is this: everywhere you catch this show, everywhere you get it, in whatever form you get it in, you're the reason why we get behind the microphone at all. So thank you very much, all you right side ruffians. I've got people sitting in studio right now, which ain't nothing but good. So sitting in studio is my daughter Caitlin and the Birdman, who many of y'all may or may not be aware, as he's the host of Right Click podcast for us. He is also my son-in-law. So Caitlin and the Birdman are both here in the studio. Hey, you guys, how are y'all doing?
Good. How you doing?
We're
Good. Hello.
I'm good. I made it through the monologue.
Me too.
I did not know if I'd be able to make it through the monologue, but I did. But I was going to say, you guys were there on the very first broadcast day, weren't you?
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Was it up in? We did it up in the Athens studio, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're now here on the last day. So yay!
Had
to
to
book
be
in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Had to be here for the first and the last one.
Yeah.
And you brought cake to both of them.
Yeah.
Oh, we did. Yeah, you're right.
We
We know what our priorities are.
Thank you very much. And I'll go ahead and too say the audience is not going to know. I mean, there's no way you could see everything it took in the background, you guys, all you ruffians out there listening to know what it took to get all this to work. But back in the day, like the very first website, some of the first social media presence, the ability to have merchandise, I think even setting up my email, that was all done by Birdman. So some people say, well, it's a good thing my daughter married a doctor, or some people say it's a good thing my daughter married a lawyer. I'm saying it's a good thing my daughter married a tech guy, because I would have no idea what to have done. So thank you very much for that, man.
Happy to. No, in all seriousness, I loved it from the start. I've always loved being a part of it. It's always been an honor.
Well, it has been good. But the fun part of it is how much she put up with your stuff in the studio. 'Cause he took over a whole corner of a room upstairs to do his podcast.
Yeah. Actually, he has a whole entire room to himself. This is his man cave too, which I was fine with. I wanted him to have.
Well,
So,
it's good. But you guys have been OG ruffians. So
that we have.
It's true.
some of the
Forever
first
and
t-shirts, right?
always. Yeah.
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 All right. So Caitlin Marie,
Yes, sir.
I mean, you're a grown woman, you're out there in the world, you're married, you're doing stuff, but you've seen me over the years do crazy things.
Mm.
Did you ever think I was going to have a radio show? Did that ever cross your mind in the years past?
No, I mean, just thinking of all the things you have done, all the experience you've had, but radio is never one of the things I thought would be added into the repertoire that is Phil Williams. But
I call it all Phil Williams Enterprises.
Yep.
But no, I never saw it coming. All right. So I don't know if I've ever asked you this. What was your reaction when either mom or I, one, said, Dad's going to have a radio show? What ran through your mind?
I think it was one of those, wait, what? And then I'm like, that's awesome. So it's a mixture of shock and awe.
It has been shock and awe. There are times when the shock and the awe felt more like awe and then, big shocks. All right. So Birdman, you've had the Right Click podcast. So part of our repertoire has been the growth of Rightside Media, the parent company here, grew into more than radio. Radio is where we started. But then we moved into my written stuff, and then we also moved into podcasting. So one of the very first podcasts, I did one called Right Philosophy, and you had Right Click.
Right.
How's that been?
It's funny. I was talking about that recently. It is, you were mentioning early on, when I was helping with the website, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've almost forgotten about that, to be honest, and not in a bad way. Just once Right Click became its own thing and we stood it up, and then like you were talking about, like she helped me figure out what we wanted to do with making a studio at the house and then making it happen. Like that has been, that's been the focus when it comes to this. And JP just knocks it out of the park with the rest of this stuff. All the stuff that I had to do, I got to focus on being a part of the same media focused mission.
Yeah.
And that was always a very me thing from the start, because I remember the conversation over pizza about what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
I was like, I think we can continue the same mission in a totally different avenue. And
Yeah.
I honestly think we've done very well at that.
Yeah.
I think it's pushed exactly how we really had it in our heads in the beginning. And I'm very proud of that.
Well, I think so too. And you do have it. And JP, if you could find a picture, a screenshot of him in his studio, that'd be cool. But I'm asking you off the cuff, but if you can find one, of course, you're JP. So why would I not worry?
No
but
pressure.
I'll get on that.
No pressure.
But But yeah, you made a point. So one of the things that we tried to do when I started this, I didn't want it to just be all about a Phil Williams voice. I wanted to have conservative voices. And, and listen, y'all out there in the audience, I'm going to tell you right now, praise God, when your kids grow up and they find a spouse that actually matches the rest of the family's ideology and spiritual growth and worldview and all that kind of stuff. So luckily I had a son-in-law who was super conservative, but you also came in it with your tech and gaming background.
Right.
And so totally different vehicle to speak truth about culture at the same time. So you've been out there like nailing some of the major gaming companies and others and putting the wokeness out there so people can see it and just it's the same stuff, different genre.
It's exactly it. We knew as things were progressing, as the ideas were forming, it's like, okay, it might be a shock to some people who are used to this specific flavor, but all that same stuff that you talk about, all the same stuff that we talk about, all the same stuff that we rant about, it's all out there in the pop culture, in the movies, in the video games, in you fill in the blank, right?
Yeah.
That was what made it such a thing at the start. And as I've gone through this, as I've done this every week for how long at this point, it is interesting to see how things ebb and flow and how over the last year, especially, that mission, I've seen it out there. And that's cool to see. Some of that has to do with election season and stuff like that. People change with the wind, right? But even a couple weeks ago, seeing things that were supposed to be the big release, and then you found out, oh, this actor is doing this and saying this garbage, and then people just revolt against it.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't see that 3 years ago.
Yeah.
You didn't. You did not see that 3 years ago. Now you do.
Somewhere along the line, you and I had a conversation too, and you told me that as you've been doing your podcast and talking to other folks, because you were a competitive gamer,
correct,
and you've talked to other folks who are still in competition, and they're like, I forget how you worded it, but I walked away with the conversation in my mind hearing there are people out there in gaming industry just so glad they're actually conservatives, actually speaking up about the gaming industry now.
It's
because
true.
They went like total woke for a while.
By the way, I got Birdman's Epic Studio.
Oh yeah, the Epic. If you're watching the live stream right now, Birdman in his studio. That's a good shot too, by the way. Good job. The lighted wall was like.
You can thank my beautiful wife for that one. She's way smarter than me.
So you did that.
We figured out how to do that. Let me tell you, we may have jerry rigged that a little bit,
a lot of it,
but it's staying and it's working.
Well, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, the people who were like, and I know you've gone to some stuff with him too. So there's actually conservatives. He's not the only conservative in the gaming industry.
No, and talking about like, tide shifting, people being able to speak out. I think people are now feeling like, oh, bit empowered to be able to talk about these things, whereas they didn't before.
Yeah.
And as you always say, like there are more of us than there are of them. Like we're realizing we're not alone.
Yeah.
And so when you're able to unite together in numbers, it gives you strength and courage because you don't feel like you're alone. You don't feel like you're isolated. So I think there is a bit of that. And so more people are speaking up about it.
All right. And you guys are, where would y'all be if we had to give the categories? I know JP's the Gen Z guy. We all be Gen Z or millennials. I forget which one y'all are in.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't keep up with it.
I think 1996 is the cutoff between millennial and Gen Z. So if y'all are before 96, then I guess you're millennial.
Because you
okay, so
I'm a millennial.
There you go. Yeah. All right. So that was the other thing was to find voices for different age groups.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the gray beard. All right. And then JP came along and not only did studio work, but he had his own podcast, out of right field, and using sports as a vehicle to talk to culture. Mm-hmm. You guys using gaming as a genre to talk about culture. We had Emily Jones came along. We did her podcast, The Controversial Mom. She just talked about what it's like to be a mom in culture, just like wearing people out for, being on the left. And then Jared Hudson came along. And I will tell you this, we're about to take a break, but it occurred to me the other day, it's kind of cool. We got people that have come and gone on the show. And now we've got like one of our podcasters, Emily, is running for state school board. One of our podcasters, Jared, is running for U.S. Senate, and I'm stepping off to go do this thing with the U.S. Attorney's Office. But it's been cool to watch the thing that you guys have been a part of. And I love y'all. And thank you for being here on the first and the last show.
Absolutely.
Of course.
And I say last show, I got to make sure I'm clear. All y'all out there, last time I'm behind the microphone as the as the guru, or as my sign says that one of our listeners sent to me, the Right Side Radio commander. I'm relieved of command and passing the guide on to JP, Allison, and Amy Beth, and they'll take it and run with it.
Yeah, I mean, you'll have your daily segment from the courthouse, right? Every day you'll be popping in, telling us the latest from the DOJ.
Excuse me, Your Honor, I'm going to step out and do a thing.
Yeah.
Can I do that? Yeah, that's probably not going to work. But if y'all can list me as host emeritus, I would appreciate that. All right, you guys, I love y'all. Thank y'all for being here with Cake, especially.
Absolutely.
Of course.
And thank you for all your podcasting too, by the way.
Of course.
Thank you for putting up with this podcasting, by the way.
It's been fun.
All right, we're taking a break. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
On my own skin is when I drank and did drugs. And so I drank and did drugs a lot.
Sort of a self-medicating kind of thing?
I definitely think it was a self-medicating thing. And once I kind of dove into that, I became the life of the party. I created a fake ID. I've always been somewhat, innovative. I learned how to create a fake ID, and then I could go get everybody alcohol. So I was like the coolest guy, in school. I could go get everybody booze and, party. But like everybody else would like party and go home and be fine. I would drink to the point of blacking out and not remember what I did. And that would happen 2 or 3 times a week, right? Like I was like a wild party animal. And then that went on to the point where I started to do drugs. And same thing, whatever I do, I do it all the way. And that happened there.
But you didn't just do it, you were selling them too, right?
Yeah. And so how it started is, a little bit of weed, selling a little bit of weed, whatever. And then I would experiment with a little bit of cocaine or methamphetamines or ecstasy or whatever. And in that experimenting phase, I was still living in a suburb of Wichita called Derby, Kansas, with my dad. And
I got siblings, by the way?
So I've got, from my mom, I have a brother who has a different dad.
Okay.
And he's Brad, and he's 2 years, 2 months, 2 days older than me. Anyway, probably not pertinent to the story, but it's interesting. And then I have a stepbrother. When my dad remarried, he remarried a woman, my stepmom, who had a son that was my exact age. So we were in the same schools together growing up.
Okay, wow, yeah.
Yeah. And he was also into partying and doing things, and also found himself in prison at some point in his life. So, I always want to go down rabbit trails, and it's like, I'm not going to rabbit trail, I promise. So that experimenting with some of those more illicit drugs, I snuck out one night to do that, and I came home after sneaking out thinking that because what I would do is I would sneak out, my bedroom would be shut, my dad would just get up and go to work. Well, he, for whatever reason that morning, needed something, and so he came in my room, and I wasn't in there. He's like, So I got busted sneaking out. And he took me to get a drug test, and I peed hot for every single thing on the drug test. And he was like, oh, wow. And so we kind of locked horns over that. And he said, you need to quit football and go to rehab, which is a really big deal. My team ended up 6A in Kansas, as big as it gets. They don't have 7A there. Yeah. And we were predicted to be the 6A state champs, or at least going to state.
What position?
I was defensive end, and they were going to move me to nose tackle that year. Which was really interesting. I was like 225 and ran a 4.840, but they wanted me inside. Anyway, I won't get into that, but yeah. So that was my, I was really, really excited about my senior year, years and years of playing football, wanted to do that. And he's telling me I got to quit to go to rehab, or I can quit football and go live with my mom in Colorado again. And so I packed up all my stuff in my car, and I drove to Colorado. And that was the biggest mistake of my life.
So mine wound up being the most impetuous good decision I ever made, because I got caught sneaking out of the house. So I was drinking and smoking starting in 4th grade. Yeah. And mine wasn't self-medicating, I don't think. And it wasn't a lot. Yeah. But it was there. And I was hanging out with a bunch of pot smokers. And mine was more along the lines of, you said I can't, so I'm gonna. Yeah. You said I can't, so this is what I'm gonna do. Sure. And it was just like that live on the edge kind of sense, 4th grade though. Yeah. I mean, who does that at 11 years old? But nonetheless, Mom caught me sneaking out of the house in 7th grade again, and gave me the ultimatum. What do you want to do here? You want to go live with your dad? And I just went, yeah. I mean, that was it. There was no thought. There was no preconceived, I've been looking for this opportunity. There was no, I think this is a good idea. It was just get back at Mom. Yeah. And so I said, yeah. Just the opposite though. Mine wound up being the best decision I could have made. Totally impetuous. Yeah. But I did it. So you wind up in Colorado though, brother. Yeah. Colorado weren't good for you.
No, that's 2002. Go back to Colorado. Start. I was already about 3 weeks into my senior year in Kansas in my football season, so I uprooted and moved to Colorado, and then went to school. Sort of like I didn't hardly ever go to school. By the time I moved in with my mom, it was free reign. I could do whatever I want. But my brother was driving for a drug dealer, and so I would ride around with them and watch him. He'd have stacks of cash. All the guys wanted to be him. All the girls wanted to be with him. Pounds of drugs. Like what's not to love? Like this is kind of the thing I'm infatuated with. And here's this guy doing this, and so I kind of went to work for him, selling a little bit of weed. And then I started getting into cocaine. Cocaine's expensive. In order to do cocaine, you have to sell cocaine. And I always say, when I tell my story, the same thing that makes me good at what I do for a living now, which is sales, networking, and persuasion, it's the same skill set I was using then, the exact same thing. And so I went in a very short amount of time.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades, y'all. That's what we're doing. Making common sense like a superpower. I got all these things that are going to be stuck in my head for years.
Maybe you should just start any, motion or anything in the courtroom, just saying something like that.
I'll say, Your Honor, may it please the court, making common sense like a superpower.
Bulletproof
Judge.
Influence.
Yeah, it's bulletproof influence, Judge. So I gotta touch base on a few things and talk. So first of all, the fact that I just had my daughter and son-in-law and my wife in studio. And I want to point out, y'all, some of y'all know this already, but you may not be catching like on a regular basis. JP is my nephew. So yeah, there's a whole lot of nepotism going on around here, but it's because I got quality people at my disposal. You know what I'm saying? But that's what I'm trying to say is this has been a family-run organization. This has been in the law, we call it a closely held corporation, which is just basically like saying there's not many people that own it or have a stake in it. But what happens oftentimes too with closely held corporations is a lot of times they're family. And this has been a family-run business, and what I love is the family's like been all in. You heard me talk about my son also, who's in the Army and stationed down at Fort Benning right now. But Josh and his daughter, I've got a picture somewhere, one of my favorites, when we're live streaming, when they were living in Michigan, by the way, with the Army. And they had the TV. They brought it up on the TV, and my grandkids are staring at me on TV. And my granddaughter, she was like 2, and she went over. She had her hands up on the screen, touching
Cap.
me. Cap, call Cap. Hello, Cap. They call me Cap.
Why aren't you answering me?
I know. She thought it was a FaceTime, but it wasn't. But yeah, this has been very, very much a family thing. And I got to tell you too, very humble in beginnings. So we have this beautiful studio right now, which I remember the reaction that I wanted is exactly what I got from Senator Katie Britt. She came and she was here in studio one day, sat right there in the same chair where either Logan or Caitlin was a minute ago, here in the studio. And she looked around and she goes, I got to tell you, I've been in pretty much every radio studio in this state, and this is the nicest one I've ever seen. And I know that to be a fact.
Yeah, I think we've gotten tremendous compliments from all of our guests that have come in studio.
But it wasn't always like that.
And by the way, including me, when I was Dale Jackson's producer and I came here for the first time, I was blown away by how nice it was. So
yeah. Well, there was nowhere to go but up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so one of the things I don't think y'all knew was the very first broadcast of this. If I wasn't up in Athens at the occasional studio appearance up there at the main studio, I'm sending the show originally just from my desk at the law firm. So my law firm, for a few of y'all have actually been here before. My law firm has the downstairs of the building, and the Rightside has the upstairs. I don't know what I would have done if both my full-time jobs had been in different buildings. But that being said, I ran up and down the stairs all day long. And initially, though, it was all downstairs. So when the show first started, I had this microphone, I had a little bitty board, Did you find a picture of that? Was there one on
No,
the,
I couldn't find
Okay.
find it on the website
but
anymore.
I just sat at my desk with this board, and I, looking back on it, originally Copper, who worked for WVNN, was my producer, but I couldn't see her because we didn't have streaming. I didn't have texting. I just had me on a microphone. I didn't even know if anybody was listening. And so I'm just talking in this microphone every day. And we made up a few bumps, and we had, the only thing I had was that intro that we've used for 4.5 years. That song that kicks on and the guy goes, "You're listening to Right Side Radio."
Yeah.
But so one day I actually called John Lewis, who's an amazing guy. Love John Lewis. He's just a great businessman. He's a very godly individual. And I called John. He's the station manager for WVNN in Huntsville. Works for Cumulus Broadcasting. I called John. I was like 4 months into the show. And I said, "Hey, man, I was going to ask you, is this working?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "I don't know. I mean, like, I just sit here and talk into a microphone, but I can't tell what's happening. Is anybody even listening to this?" And he goes, "Have you not seen the Nielsen's?" And I said, "You got Nielsen's?" He goes, "Yeah, I'll send them to you." Top ranked show in the afternoons across North Alabama. Blew me away. And next thing I know, we're getting calls, "Would you syndicate? Would you consider coming to our station too?" And so for a period of time, we jumped right into the Birmingham market, which we ran through until just earlier this year. But because of that, I had to have studio space. One of those God things is the upstairs of my law firm building was coming vacant right as we were syndicating. And so
What are the odds of that?
Well, I'm saying, and it's a beautiful spot. We overlook the country club golf course. You got trees turning, fall colors outside our window. Anyway, I just said, let's grab it and see what God does. So we fixed this place up, man. And I mean, like, y'all, we have the Right Side suite up here. Coming from having sat at my desk, and literally when I had a guest come to my quote unquote studio originally, it was a card table sitting next to my desk, and they sat there. I had all kinds of dignitaries and VIPs and people running for office and whatever else come and sit at the card table at my law firm desk and just talk on the radio. And then it grew to this, and then it kept on going. But I'm going to be honest with you, and I'll say it multiple times. I do not take it for granted. And I also know for a fact, it's not because of what we did here. It's because of y'all listening out there. Ain't nothing about what we're doing right now that would have worked had it not been for all the Right Side ruffians who grabbed hold of what we're doing and who knew that every single day when I said that we wanted to educate, enlighten, empower, and entertain people on what it means to be, conservative in today's crazy world, that we meant it. And that I said that there was 3 things this show was going to stand for: the mission and the message. And the mission was those 4 things: that educate, enlighten, empower, and entertain. But that was just the mission. The message for 4.5 years: Jesus is Lord, America is great, Alabama is beautiful, and life's worth living. Y'all took it and ran with it, and here we are. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Folks, Phil Williams here. I want to remind you that Inspire Advisors is one of our sponsors, and they are doing amazing work. Look, I know this audience. You're the kind of folks who believe in standing up for your principles. You're good stewards of your resources. But what if the companies you were investing in don't reflect your values at all? Well, that's why you need to meet Paul Breyer and his team at Inspire Advisors. Because Inspire Advisors, they are experts in the field of biblically responsible investing. They can help you grow your bottom line while also be proud of what companies you're investing in. Inspire Advisors, check them out. Their website, www.moneypatternwealth.com, and tell them you heard about it on Right Side Radio.
Little bits of marijuana to next thing you know, I'm selling cocaine, and next thing you know, I'm selling lots of cocaine. And in a period of 5 years, I racked up 6 felonies, and all of it was drug or stealing things to buy drugs or getting in a high-speed chase with the cops or whatever. But I, went from selling little bits of marijuana to the point where I was pushing large amounts of cocaine and methamphetamines for cartels in Colorado Springs.
That's before it was all legal out in Colorado.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now they let you take over apartment complexes.
Yeah, exactly. Now you can just bring your gang and have at it.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So, in going through getting ready to sit down with you today, and I've heard your story before,
Mm-hmm.
but I've never heard all of your story before.
Sure.
But you didn't just go to prison. You you were on the run for a while, and
Sure.
then they caught you swinging on a rope out the window trying to get away from a drug bust.
Yeah.
And I am of the understanding that at some point, Dog the Bounty Hunter was offered the opportunity to track you down, and he declined.
Yes, and I don't think he declined. I don't think he based off of. Well, so I'll just tell the story. That's
You
what
have
we
to
do.
now
That's
that
what we
I've
do.
asked
We have to
about
tell
it.
stories. Yeah. So here I am. I've now racked up 6 felonies. That 6th felony was the doozy. Okay, and the 6th felony was, I was already out on bond. I was already on probation, and I'd been up for 3 or 4 days. Found out one of these guys who had informed the cops about some legal activity that I was involved with. Found out that he had just come into some money, and he owed me money, and he also narked on me, right? And so in that world, you don't do that. Those are the rules, okay? You don't do that. If you want to play in this society, you don't do that. Now, a lot of people did, but there was an enforcement mechanism called me, okay? And if you're going to do that to me, I'm going to find you and I'm going to hurt you. That was the way it worked. And he wasn't the only one that I did that to, but he was the one that ended up telling the cops again. So I went to his house. I'd been up for 3 days, strung out on meth, pound on his door. He answers the door. I said, he's like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" I just immediately said, "Why'd you tell on me?" "And I didn't tell on you. I walked into his house, pushed him. "Why'd you tell on me?" "I didn't tell on you." And I just started to beat him relentlessly. And the guy that I was with, so the way that it reads in the charges, and it's because they only wanted me to go down. They didn't care about the other guy that was with me. I was their target, okay, for the cops, law enforcement. I was the one running all these drug rings and theft rings and motorcycle theft rings and all this stuff. So they were after me. And I wasn't going to tell on the guy that was with me, but this is what actually happened versus what if you read the articles online and the charges and stuff. I was tasing him and beating him and tasing him with a taser and beating him, trying to get him to admit that he told on me. Well, the guy that was with me had a blackjack, which is it's not makeshift, like you can buy them. Yeah. It's got like a mechanical spring inside of it with a heavy piece of lead with leather wrapped around it. Yeah. And he hit him square in the forehead with it. Boom, his head explodes. Blood goes everywhere. Was not the intention of that visit, okay? My intention, I actually was friends with the guy and liked the guy, but he had broken the rules. And so I was in there to make sure that he understood that you don't do this. The guy I was with cracked his head open. Blood went everywhere. And I'm like, well, at this point, we're done, okay? Like, this is over. And after he got hit in the head with that, he admitted that he told on me. That happened, but that was not the intention of this meeting, was to go that serious and that far, but it did. And once it did, I just started grabbing computers and anything that was of value. I told his brother, I said, "Look, if you guys don't pay us, pay me the money that you owe me, I'm going to be back, and that's going to be you." And I walked out. And so they hit me with attempted murder, aggravated robbery, and extortion. That night, I got arrested again.
That's go away charges right there.
Those are go away charges, yeah, for a long time. And it was my 6th felony. Right. So my 6th time I've been arrested and charged in separate cases. And so I got arrested that night. I went to court basically, and they dropped the attempted murder down to 1st degree because it didn't fit. And so my arraignment, I don't know what they call it. You're a lawyer. I'm not. Although after being in prison for a little while, you actually kind of turn into one. But they dropped it to 1st degree assault. And so I was charged with 1st degree assault, aggravated robbery, and extortion, and a slew of other things, but those were the heaters. And so I'm in there for 2 weeks, and I get bonded out again. And so now I'm out on several $100,000. No, I think it was like $135,000 worth of bonds, if I remember correctly.
Who posted bond?
There's so many rabbit trails I could go all the way down. I just don't know how interesting they are. There's this girl, I think her name was Lisa, that she was just infatuated with me and thought the world of me. And she went and used a credit card to buy a bunch of Xbox 360s that were out at the time, and then sold them and got the money to bond me out.
No kidding.
No one's ever got that story, Phil. You're the first that got that story. That asked that question. There you go. But yeah, I ended up bonding out and knew immediately that if I go to court, I'm going to prison for the rest of my life. So I'm not going to court, which now makes me a fugitive because I missed my court date, right? I'm on the run. And the plan was, I had a friend, Spider. He and I were supposed to, and Spider's a very bad dude, like very, very bad, Hispanic guy who's part of the Sereno gang. And we were supposed to go down to California with his people and then go into Mexico. That's what they do on the movies. We felt like it was a good idea. Only problem is we never got around to doing it. And so I ended up on a number of occasions. The cops ended up finding where I was, but they didn't have a warrant and they weren't sure. And so there's a couple different ways that I was able to get away when I was on the run.
Yeah.
And that infuriated them. Okay.
This is how long? Like several weeks?
Yeah, it was about 2 or 3 weeks. Yep. And so you had, at the time, there was Officer Mork and Officer Goldbranson, which were with Colorado Springs Police Department. But then you had Sergeant O'Driscoll, who was the head of the fugitive.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. And oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a Friday. So I got to quickly do a shout out. So I just heard that my amazing grandchildren and my son and daughter-in-law are at Fort Benning watching the live stream right now. So shout out to Josh, Anna, Declan, and Emmy. And I love y'all. So thank you very much for streaming in again, part of our large family audience. But right now what I want to do is I'm going to the phones, so to speak. The guy to whom we have everything to blame for all this is Dale Jackson, 770 AM, 92.5 FM, host of the Dale Jackson Show. And Yellowhammer Gig and all of it. Hey, Dale Jackson, how you doing, buddy?
I could not be any better. It's kind of weird that this whole thing is where it is right now because it all started because I didn't want to work. I mean, that's really what it is. I was like, I need to take a couple of days off. I really don't want to be there. Who is a big enough sucker to come all the way over here and do this show and not want anything in exchange? And then he did it. I was like, okay, I got to get this guy away from my show before he ruins my life because he's better than I am and I don't like this. So that's how this all started. That's the truth of the matter. You filled in for me a couple times and then I have no problem telling the truth. I wanted to hire you, but then I realized, wait a minute, this guy's a successful human being. He can't work for radio money. I mean, this is ridiculous. So we got to figure out a way to make this work. And you took it and you owned it and you did it on your own. And it's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive.
Well, brother, I appreciate you. And so as long as we're having a love fest, I'll just tell you right now, I still remember doing your show. And I was like, Dale Jackson, like, that's like a big show. I don't know if I can do this. And I remember asking, you said, hey, man, I'm going on vacation or something. I forget what it was. Could you guest host for me? And I was like, yeah, I think that'd be cool. A guest host, what do I do? Like a whole hour, 2 hours, 2 hours. And I was like, that's just, I lawyered up for that show, man. I had so many notes and what Antonio was running the board, I think. And I had the best time. I guess you figured I had a lot of hot air so I could come back.
Look, I'll tell you the same thing I told everyone else when I pitched this show and this idea. I was like, and I'll get some of this wrong as I usually do, but I was like, this is a guy who's a lawyer. This is a guy who's rode horseback into Afghanistan. This is a guy who's a minister. He's been a state senator. He failed to lobby to get appointed to the United States Senate. He failed to lobby to get appointed as AG. And this is a guy who has gone out and done so much stuff that he's got more experience than anyone else on the radio in the real world. And that's why I knew you'd be great at. And all those things that you did were, and I don't even know about the last two, I just made those up, but all the things you've actually done in your life lead you to this great opportunity. And really, I'm glad I get this opportunity to talk to you because I'm kind of pissed at you. I'm just going to tell you the truth. I'll tell you the truth. I mean, you're going from appearances on CNN to, and we've talked off the air, other opportunities have presented themselves for you in different ways, to go sit in a stodgy office somewhere and put bad guys in jail. I mean, what is this? Are you going to come back?
You know what? We'll see what God does. But right now, I got to be honest with you. I was talking to Senator Tuberville one day about this U.S. attorney thing. And he says, Phil, I got to ask you, if you get this nomination, if you're the one nominated for this, are you going to put somebody in jail? And I said, I'm a friggin' gunslinger, coach.
Yeah.
Of course I am. And he goes, oh, I'm pretty sure you're going to get the nomination then. So anyway, here I am.
Did he suggest that maybe you should stay on the radio at all?
No, you can't do both. He knew that, and I knew that.
I know
and
that,
so-
but did he ask you, like, will you leave the radio in order to do this?
Oh, I've been asked by that. So with my interviews with the White House and everything else, they always said, "Are you aware that you'll have to divest of your current, positions?" And I said, "I am." So yeah, that's it. I got to tell the story though, Dale, real quick. Harkening back. So I've told it on the air before, but I'll tell it again with you here. You called me, and I think it was March of 21. And I thought, my phone rang. I see it's Dale Jackson. I'm thinking you're going to call me to see if I'll come on or maybe guest host again. And I picked it up, and the conversation went no lie. If you remember this, something like, I said, "Hey man," and you go, "Hey," and I said, "What's going on?" And you said, "Rush Limbaugh died," and I went, "Yeah," and then there was like a pause, and I went, "Yeah, all right," and he goes, "Yeah, but I got to fill 3 hours," and I went, "Okay," and then you said, "We want to know if you'll do a show," and I said, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." And so that was 4.5 years ago or more, almost 5 years ago, really.
Yep. That time slot didn't really work out for what we were trying to do. I mean, it would serve two purposes in this case. It got you a time slot. It got Yaffe off of afternoon drive. That's killing WVN. We had to get that guy out of there and put him, got to get him closer to me in the morning so I can protect him. But no, the original idea was to put you there, but there's just so many moving pieces in radio and how things work. So it didn't really line up the way it was, but that was the catalyst. Like that's the catalyst of the conversation. And I think it's worked out great. I mean, and people tell me all the time, it's like, and I've said this on the air, so I have no problem saying this. I go over to my mom's neighborhood, and they're all elderly. I love them, no question about it. They're great, nice. And these little old ladies will come up to me, and they'll be like, "You're the one that's on the radio," and I'm like, "Yes, I am the one on the radio. Stop looking me in the eye." And then they say, "You know that Phil Williams guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know Phil Williams. I know him." And he goes, "He's my favorite. He's my favorite. I love Phil Williams. I love Phil. He's my favorite." I'm like, what the hell, man? You can be nice to me. Like no, but they love Phil Williams. 65 plus, Phil Williams, number one.
That's my genre, man.
Yeah,
that's my peeps. I guess I'm the gray beard. Although I'm looking at your beard right now, and I'm saying, a little Grecian formula, dude. But
I'm getting old, man. There's no question about it. This business ages you quickly.
Well, it does. But by the way, I also got to thank you for something else. Thank you for giving me a 7 to 9 month beta test of JP, so I could steal him away from you and bring him over here to be the best producer in all of Alabama media. So thank you.
I was going to bring it up, but that's the scummiest thing you've ever done. I truly, it is such a scummy thing that you did. And you're like, hey, JP, this is Phil Williams talking. JP's a loser. He's got nothing going on. I don't like him. His dad hates him. And going on and on and on about this stuff. And I'm just like, what's the question here? Do you want me to kill this guy? What are you asking me? He's like, could you maybe find something for him to do? And I'm like, I guess. And he's like, just want to let you know, he's got no skills. He's a terrible person. He smells bad. All these things. And I said, Phil Williams, I'll do anything for you. No problem. And little did I know it was all a scam. Because 7 months later, you take him away. It's just a complete scam. Right. It was a con job. And then I realized how much he sucked. So I was glad to see him go.
Well, but when you first saw him and you realized he was bald with a beard, you said, "This is a go. We're going to take this."
That was actually the first thing he said to me. I saw him and he said, "You're going to have to change your haircut if you're going to work here."
You're gonna and then I saw his pictures of it in high school.
Oh yeah,
where his hair was going away, and I'm like, never mind, leave it where it is. He and our hairlines had a similar path.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, brother, listen, I love you as a friend. I appreciate you. Thank you for giving me a break when by the way, I did not see this coming. Some of the best stuff in my life have been the surprise phone calls, and yours was a total surprise. But you gave me big shoes to follow, and I mean your shoes, not Rush Limbaugh's. You gave me like a whole mission in life, because I feel like for 4.5 years, I've had a chance to impact culture and do stuff and say things. And I'll tell you what's funny too. I go to the courtroom now and I have to remind myself, you're not on the radio show. You got to talk like a lawyer. And so, because I've found myself being more combative in the courtroom than I ever was before I had a radio show.
Oh, absolutely. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've had girlfriends tell me, and wives too, tell me, hey, you're not on the radio, man. I get to talk. But I do want to say, I want to ask you this question, because you've lived both worlds here. You were a legislator. You're on the radio.
Yeah.
There's a theory that you have more power on the radio than you do as one of those 35 legislators down there. The thing. I mean, I've watched, I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, but I've watched as legislators talk to you, and they talk to me the same way. It's very deferential, because they're trying to get you to see their point of view, and you can motivate listeners, and you do. Your listeners are motivated. They are motivated. There's no question. A woman came up to me at one of my son's soccer game and had tears in her eyes. Now, I think there were two reasons for tears in her eyes. One, Charlie Kirk had just been killed. That had happened that weekend before. Yeah. And two, I think you had either announced you were leaving, or no, that's not it. She it was something else, but that was number one. Number two, she was a super Phil Williams fan. And so those were the two things. And I was just like, God, she's wearing a Rightside radio shirt. And I'm like, WVNN's nowhere on it. This is like completely screwing me. It's unbelievable. But the point is, the question is this: do you feel like you got more stroke in the state?
Yeah.
Doing what you're doing now than what you were doing when you were one of 35?
I know I did. Because I had an audience that was confined to my district, occasionally outside, and then within the body of the legislature. And a lot of times it was inside the bubble. You try to have influence and do what you can. That's a heck of a thing when the 35 who are inside the bubble now care about what the guy says who's speaking to tens of thousands. And I know for a fact that there were times when I was able to speak to bills like the gambling bill or other issues that came up, or budget issues, or for that matter, COVID restrictions, and look at all of it and go, I'm having way more fun wearing them out than I would if I was on the floor of the Senate trying to wear them out one at a time.
Yeah, no question. Last thing I need to tell you this.
Yeah. This
is important. You're going to be a prosecutor. Our paths are going to cross. At some point in time, I feel like our paths are going to cross again. Just remember, I'm good. Just look the other way. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do is look the other way. So
appreciate you.
Yep.
Grand juries are very impartial proceedings. All right.
Okay.
Love you, man. Hey, thanks, Dale Jackson. Appreciate you, man. Talk to you soon. Well, we're taking a break right there. That's nothing but fun. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Coming up next, I think we got Jeff from Indiana. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Crime Prevention Unit.
You still remember their names?
Yes, I do. And there's a story in that
this?
too. This would have been 2007.
Oh.
Yeah, and so Sergeant O'Driscoll and his team, not only was he on the fugitive task force, he was part of the crime prevention unit. So even before I was a fugitive, both Mork and Goldbranson and Sergeant O'Driscoll and his team, they were dedicated to bringing me in and taking me down. Okay. Because of, the threat that I posed in running these crime rings or whatever. And, but the crime prevention unit and fugitive task force, it was ran by Sergeant O'Driscoll. They ended up, they have like unlimited budget, work with the feds, all this other stuff. And so they were on me. And so I got away a couple times, and finally June 19th, 2007, I am in what we deemed my safe house, and Spider had given me a nylon rappelling rope to tie to the bottom of this 70s retro recliner. And he's like, if you got to get out, you go, because the front door there's a hallway in these apartments, and then you go from the hallway into the apartment, and the only way out would be down the window, out the window and down on the ground, and it's third story. And I'm like, I'm never going to use that. That's crazy, but I did. Every 18 inches, I tied a double knot, so I could climb like that. And, I woke up June 19th, 2007, not thinking anything, just another day of being on the run. And I was in my living room.
One of your interviews, you said you woke up at 3 p.m.
Yeah, it was that afternoon. And it was that afternoon. I was, again, smoking weed, doing drugs, and, your circadian rhythm gets a little off in that situation. And so woke up that afternoon. It's the weird thing that you remember. I was cooking bratwurst and watching the Chappelle Show. And I looked out the window, and the way that it's set up, there's an apartment building here. And every year I go to Colorado Springs and I take my family. And this year I took my 15-year-old son, and he's heard me tell this story a million times. And I'm like, here's the bill. He's like, this is just like the building you said. I said, yeah, no, it's because it's where it happened. Okay, like I'm telling you. And we go and we look, and there's an apartment building right here. This is the apartment building I'm in. And I saw the front end of a cop car sticking out. And I knew, okay, they're here. They're here. And so I kind of frantically, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Well, then all of a sudden I hear, boom, boom, boom. Colorado Springs police, open up. They kick in the door. And I look, it wasn't my door. So I said, they don't know which apartment I'm in. They're kicking in every single door in the apartment on the third floor. All they knew is I was on the third floor. And so you've been in Afghanistan and Iraq. They're clearing rooms as though this was Afghanistan trying to find me. Okay, in an apartment complex.
Yeah.
Boom. Okay. I'm like, okay. Well, I look at the rope and this is my only option. And so I kick the screen out, throw my backpack out with all my stuff, and the only piece of furniture in the whole place was the TV and the retro recliner. Okay, that was it. And so I wrap the rope around my hand and I jump. Boom, and it sticks exactly how it's supposed to. It's wedged in the window, and I'm hanging there. Well, what I didn't know in that back parking lot, there was a surveillance van.
Oh yeah,
that blends in with the rest of the. You wouldn't have known it was a cop car or whatever. It was a surveillance van, and they called it in. Someone's trying to jump out the window. I think we got our guy, and then 50 or 60 cops. They weren't going to miss me again. Come swarming from the outside. Like you couldn't see them because they were right here.
So the jig was up at that point.
The jig was up. Yeah, the gun's drawn. Get on the ground, as though I had another option. Gravity necessitated that down was the direction I was going to go, and so I unwrapped my hand, fell, and hit the ground. Thankfully, didn't break anything. They put their knee in my back, cuffed me, put me in the back of the cop car, and that was it. June 19th, 2007.
So I'm fascinated by two things in the story.
Sure.
One is you still remember the cops' names.
There's a story for why, but go ahead.
Well, and then I may get back to that story.
Yeah.
But the other is you take your kids and you show them exactly where this happened.
Yeah.
So we're going to get a lot into, you're obviously a different person today.
Sure.
I know the guy who did those things, but I don't know the guy who did those things. Sure. Because you're a different person. But that being said, you're pretty transparent with, and you have 7 kids, by the way.
Yeah.
You're a prolific breeder,
yes.
but nonetheless, you've got a beautiful family, 7 kids, but you're telling them what's happened in your life.
Mm-hmm.
What's can I ask you real quick? What's their response when they hear about Dad before they knew Dad?
This is a great, it's a great platform to share the gospel with your kids, right? But the older ones, it's a warning. Proverbs talks about the fool. Dad was a fool, right? I was the epitome of the fool, and in Proverbs and really throughout the scriptures, it talks about a fool. And I didn't seek wise counsel. I didn't receive instruction. I didn't receive discipline. I didn't any of those things. I rejected all of it, and this is where I ended up. And so I don't think it's set. So I've got a 15-year-old, got a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old. Okay. The 15-year-old, the 10-year-old.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. All right, so in the stream of Rightside, just verbosity and somebody who is going to be like a regular part of the show and someone who always had commentary on the events of the day and who we just grew to love. There's hardly anybody else that has that much of a designation more than none other than Jeff from Indiana, who's on the line right now. Give me some applause for Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey, buddy, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay so far.
Well,
how are you doing?
I'm good. I didn't say it earlier, but I did my monologue. I had to pre-record it because I was having a hard time. I was having a hard time with it, and I was afraid I wouldn't be able to get through it on the air live. Anyway,
just when you needed that box of Rightside tissues and you didn't.
That's exactly right. Well, where are you at right now, man? You on the way south? You on the way north?
I'm sitting at home.
Oh, are you really? Today's a home day, huh?
Yep. Home
Well,
day, yeah. Off again for another long weekend. If it don't hurt my feelings a bit.
no. Well, good on you. Well, listen, I want to say in the presence of all the ruffians how much we have appreciated you. I mean, it started off with you would just call in and I'd like, oh, is that Jeff? And then, and then next thing I know, I was like, where's Jeff? Why isn't Jeff on yet? Somebody get Jeff. And then what's kind of cool is like you and I met on the side of the road that one time I've talked about many times. And then, at the same time, you're one of the few listeners who I communicate with outside the show. And it's all because we connected through the show. So anyway, I love you and I appreciate you, man.
And the feeling is mutual, Phil. I mean, I started listening to you 4.5 years ago and stuff, and I got to love the show and appreciate you and all the family of the show, and it just your friendship means a lot to me. I mean, you're one of the few people that's walking this earth that I would trust with my life and my family's life. I appreciate you that much, and you've been a big part of our family through the years.
Well, thank you, brother. That means the world. All that, and you look good in a Right Side Radio shirt too, by the way.
yeah. Are they going to keep making those things?
You know what?
I may need to get another one.
Yeah, just keep JP's number because he's gonna know what's happening with the merchandise realm.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So
we'll stay in contact. That's for sure. And also, I'd like to take time to say this is kind of like the Tonight Show. Once Johnny Carson left, what's the name come in there and everything is a different host and different, somewhat different audience, and I think everybody, listening and everything, should, keep watching the show and give these ladies a chance because, a few of them will drop out and then it's going to be a new genre. And I think we'll have a lot of new listeners, that they can relate to more maybe, and keep this show going. It's been a part of my life and it's been a part of a lot of people's lives here in the last few years. And I know I'll still be around.
Well, and that's the next thing. I'm going to make you swear while I'm on the air and everybody can hear your voice that you're going to keep calling in. Is that going to happen?
Oh, yeah. Well, JP's got to have some backup with all these ladies around.
You got to bring some testosterone to the show.
I appreciate it.
Kind of like my son. He's the only boy and 6 ladies around him, 6 women around him. So he's got to have a little bit of backup every now and then. Otherwise, the estrogen level just gets a little too high.
Absolutely. Well, you tell the lovely Miss Carolyn how much we appreciate y'all, and I listen. I look forward to communicating with you even when I'm not on the air. But you are much loved, and you have been a part of the Right Side family from way back. All right.
Yeah, and congratulations on your new appointment and everything. And we'll be. Yeah, I'll probably be blowing your phone up more than ever now. And like I say, anytime you need a little bit of advice on your legal deals, or you can
all right, dude. You be safe on the road. We'll talk to you. All right.
Have a good one, Phil.
You too, buddy. That to me, by the way, is one of my favorite parts of this is the personalities that are outside the studio that become part of the studio. If you know what I'm saying. Jeff from Indiana, and then any number of other names that if I say them, like John from Huntsville, checking in, Roughly Ann, Junebug. I've got all these people that text in, Badger from Athens, Wolverine Dan, Sparky from Harvest, Dustin from Hillsboro. I mean, when I say these things, when I'm looking at, and when I would run into them in person, listen, that's the best, man. That's the best. You guys are awesome. Jeff from Indiana, thank you as always. All right, we're taking a break. We're coming right back. Guess who's next? Emily Jones, the controversial mom. We'll be right back.
Well, the ones that really wrap their minds around what I'm talking about when I talk about being in prison and, cops chasing me and that kind of stuff. The rest of the ones are younger and they're just like, wow, Dad, you used to be bad, but now you're good. Like they don't have any, but it will eventually form like their understanding. And it's something that I want them to always know. And the thing I always point them to is like, 1, don't be the fool, receive instruction, receive wise counsel, obey God and obey your parents. But also life isn't perfect. And if you stray, you can never stray so far that God can't get you. Right. And if God saved me, he can save anybody. And that's not cliche. It's literally, let me tell you about something. But again, specifically with my 15-year-old, I drive him all around Colorado Springs. There's not a corner I didn't commit a felony in that city, okay? And I drive him, and I'm like, I did this here, I did this here, I did this here, I did this here. Like, this is who I was. You need to know and understand that, right? And so,
Proverbs 19, raise up a child the way they should go.
Yep.
When they get old, they won't depart from it.
Yep.
All right, brother. So you, the jig was up. They got you. The officers whose names you still recall were a part of the task force that brought you in, and you're staring at 6 felonies prior before you even got to this point. And now you've got this stack of felonies, and you're looking at 384 years potentially. Sure. So you're looking at life in prison at that point.
Correct. Yeah.
But you negotiated.
Yeah.
Did you negotiate for yourself, or did your lawyer do a good job?
It's a mix, but there's a bunch between that. But yeah, it gets into mediation. But there was 9 months between then, and in those 9 months, they take me to county jail. I'm facing 384 years in prison. At least that's how my public defender described it, because how it works, and the numbers are shaky in my head. But I have to do the math. But either way, each charge that I was charged with gets doubled because I was on probation and on bond, so they can double it, so they enhance it.
Yeah.
And then they times it. They can times it by 4 because it's the habitual criminal.
Yeah.
Right. And so I can break it all down with math or whatever, but the habitual criminal. So if you have 3 felonies, they call that, I'm not going to say what they call it. It's the B word, the little B word. And if it's 4 or more, they quadruple your sentence. And they call that the big B word. Okay. Habitual. Anyway. So I was at 6. So I'm times 4. And then so they stack, and then they times it by 4. And then that's where that comes from.
This is state, not federal, right?
State, Colorado State. Yep. Colorado State Prison.
It didn't wind up being 384 years, but you still got a pretty stiff sentence.
Got a pretty stiff sentence, and the transformation really began in county jail. So I was in county jail for 9 months, basically holding out, and that's part of your negotiations in county jail. I was like, well, I'll just sit here until you bring me a deal that I want, right? And they'll only do that for so long. But it is, some people just want to get in there and they plea and they go to prison, but I was going to, bide my time or whatever. Well, I'm now in county jail thinking I'm going to go do the rest of my life in prison. That's how I'm seeing this. And so I'm in there thinking I have to create this reputation of being a bad dude, so when I get to prison, people won't mess with me. And so I do, and I'm hanging out with all the wrong people in there. I catch one assault case. They put me in the hole, then send me to another unit. I'm there for a little bit. They bring in another guy that had told on one of my friends. And I had to go beat him up really, really bad. Caught another assault case. So I caught 2 assault cases in county jail. So on top of all my other stuff, I caught 2 more assault cases. They were misdemeanor assaults, but they're still assault cases. And they put me in administrative segregation after that. So they're like, okay, you don't play nice with others.
That's solitary, basically.
Solitary, right? Correct. Exactly what it is. Yep. Solitary confinement. You're in a cell by yourself for 23 hours a day. You get an hour out to make a phone call and take a shower, maybe do some push-ups or whatever, and you go back to your cell. That's what you get. And I was in there for about 4 months. Okay. And so it was 9 months total, 5 months out, 4 months in ADSEG or solitary. And in that stay in solitary, God began to open my eyes. I don't believe he saved me yet, but he opened my eyes to the fact it was my fault that I was in there. And this is huge. I was just reading
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all want to talk about we're in the neighboring states. We're all over like Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi. Oh, by the way, we got a ton of people that live stream the show every single day on X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then a bunch of y'all podcast. Oh, man, so many of y'all podcast this show. Thank you very much. Well, listen, speaking of podcasts, So one of the cool things about Rightside Media, the parent company of Rightside Radio, is it was beyond just a radio show. And I don't want to say just a radio show because that's been our bread and butter from day one. But we had the opportunity then to really kind of expand our repertoire by bringing in other voices. I mean, a while ago you heard from Birdman, and he brought in a conservative worldview, and he used gaming and high-tech stuff as the backdrop for it. And then JP has his Out of Right Field podcast, same thing, speaking to culture, conservative worldview. Oh, by the way, sports is the thing. And then I'll tell you what, a few years ago, I met Emily Jones, and I met her through this show. But Emily started Moms for Liberty. She's a mom who just got uppity one day and decided she's had enough of some of the wokeness. And next thing I know, she's organizing Moms for Liberty and doing an amazing job in her community. And then she's bringing Charlie Kirk, not Charlie Kirk, but Kirk Cameron, and caused all kinds of uproar. And then she got, really busy doing all that. Now she's running for school board. And oh, by the way, she was one of our podcasters, host of the Controversial Mom podcast. That being said, let me quit talking and bring her on. Emily Jones, how are you doing?
I am lovely. How are y'all?
I'm good. Hey, you've been a blessing to us, by the way. Your content has always been spot on. And what I'm really loving is the fact that you're now running for office.
Yes, I am loving it. I told somebody the other day, I definitely have a screw loose because I am thoroughly enjoying the world of politics, which most people hate, but I find it to be my comfort zone these days. Isn't that weird?
Well, it is. It's kind of funny. I think that's I think what's so cool was, aside from the fact that you started Moms for Liberty's chapter in Madison, which is the first one in Alabama, but your podcast was called The Controversial Mom because you weren't afraid to get out there and get busy, and now you're going to be a controversial mom politician.
I'm sure people in Alabama are just like tuning out right now. They're terrified of what's to come. It'll be glorious. I'm excited.
I'm stoked. I think it's going to be a hoot. And I think you're going to make waves. So I'm looking forward to that. Well, listen,
I'll probably land in your courtroom before it's all over. So I am looking forward to that.
Don't say that. Don't say that. Hey, so let me ask you, a few years back, I think you and I met because of your Moms for Liberty chapter. And then I know we really got to know each other more around your first Kirk Cameron book reading event at the library. What are your remembrances of the early days like that?
I remember, it's funny. So you were talking to Dale earlier about how the first time you filled in for him, you were so nervous and like that deer in the headlights look. That was me going into my first interview with you. I am pretty sure I was at the beach. And I spent like half the day in the condo preparing for probably like a 5 to 10 minute conversation with you. I was absolutely terrified, but it was wonderful. Like afterwards, I'm like, oh, that guy's really nice. Like that was not bad. I survived it. But yeah, terrified me out of my mind. I had no idea what I was getting into, but it was good. It was a good first experience.
Well, I am a scary person, so there's that.
You are. You're terrifying.
But I came out. So you had several events. Mom for Liberty. You had of course, the library thing. That turned into a whole thing, and then you had a shooting event. Which, by the way, I still have my award on the shelf behind me for shooting sporting clays with you guys that day, which was a hoot.
That was fun. That was the first time I've ever gone clay shooting, and it was a blast. I'm actually staring at mine too. It was way fun. I was texting my friend Megan the other day and telling her, I was like, we've got to get that together again because it was so much fun.
Well, I think you should. And just so you know, even though I'm not on the radio, I can still come shoot. So make sure I know.
All right. Good to know.
But then you guys got like kind of huge. And next thing I know, you got Riley Gaines coming and you're filling up a room with like 500 or 600 people there having a Moms for Liberty event hosted out there at Trash Panda Stadium. And then next thing I know, you've got Marjorie Taylor Greene coming, and you got all kinds of like vandalism of the. You had to have security out there. I mean, you're doing stuff, and how is it your stuff always gets so controversial?
Right, and I don't even invite it. That's the funny thing. I mean, like the Brian Dawson thing. Like we may have talked about that. But Brian Dawson, we had to have more security for him than anybody else we've ever had. Like, it's just, man, I guess the world's just crazy. But it seems like the more we do, the more pushback we get from all these people. So it is, everything we do ends up being controversial, but in a good way.
In a good way. Well, speaking of which, though, your podcast has been a huge piece of our content. You and I talked back in the day, and you told me, I'm thinking about doing a podcast. And I remember, I think we were talking, it was like a Sunday afternoon, and we're on the phone, and I'm sitting there in my den at home or whatever, talking to you on the phone. And you said, I don't know what to call it. And I said, well, you're pretty controversial. Just call it the controversial mom. And you went, I like that. So that's where it came out.
I've just learned to lean into it. You know, you just can't walk away from who you are. So just embrace it.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I just want you to know how much you've meant to this show and to the company overall. And I hope you guys will stay in tune, because JP and the ladies who are taking the helm here, Allison and Amy Beth, I think it's right up your alley.
Yes, I love Amy Beth and Allison. I was actually texting her the other day.
Good.
So yeah, we will certainly miss you, because you are just the epitome of Rightside Radio. But I think you're turning it over to good hands with those three. And JP's wonderful. I don't know JP as well. Usually JP's the one that I'm going, hey, I'm sorry that I'm really late with this content, but I promise I'm going to get it to you. But I sent it to him an hour ago, and I was like, I promise I'm working on it.
Well, just so you know, he never told on you. I didn't know that. Hey, listen, I'm gonna close with this. So, one of the things that I started off on 4.5 years ago was I wanted to know that this show was doing all it could to encourage people to get active in their community, which is one of the reasons why, you fit in so well here, because you're doing the same thing. But you're now running for office. I fully support that. So you're running for state school board, not even local. You're running for state school board. Tell us about that real quick. I want you to have a minute to talk about your campaign and tell us what can be done to help you and where people can find out more about you.
Yep. Biggest thing is go to the website, Emily Jones for state board. But yeah, the campaign kicked off officially about a month ago, and we've been doing small fundraisers throughout the area. Just trying to engage with grassroots, because that's really and truly who our audience is. Just trying to get people educated of what's really and truly happening in our school systems and what parents need to know in terms really their parental rights being violated. It's not necessarily issues at the local level that are causing the problems. It's decisions being made at the state level. And that's why I went with the state school board versus local. Because a lot of school boards, their hands are tied at a local level. So the state's really where we can have impact, correct a lot of the issues that are going on, like forced counseling in our schools, and just kind of fix things across the state. So there's some other announcements coming out very soon around other people running in other districts. So I think we are on the verge of being able to truly transform public education in our state. We've just got to get the right people in there. And I am certainly one of those. I got policies written out already. We just got to get through the election, get through the swearing in, and start passing policy to clean things up in our state.
I am for it, sister, and you're the right one for the job. So thank you very much for being a Rightside ruffian from way back. And you and I will still be in touch, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Thank you. Y'all have a good weekend.
See ya. All right, we're taking a break. We'll come right back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Coming up next, the publisher of the Trustful Tribune and one of my guest hosts, Scott Buttram. We'll be right back.
Just his new book last night, because I'm going to interview him later today. But it like that was one of the chapters when it talks about just rugged accountability. Like you have to take accountability for your actions if you're ever going to repent. And this was the beginning of me realizing, because up to that point, I blame my mom for my circumstances. I blame my dad. I blame the judge. I blame the cops. Da 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 da.
No more victim.
Exactly. And but what was wild though, I really believed I was a victim. Like I wasn't just saying that to get out of trouble. I really believed it, which is weird. But God, in His mercy, opened my eyes. Like, no, dummy, this is your fault. Sure, does your mom and your dad play a role? And oh yeah. But your choices got you here. They didn't beat that guy up. They didn't jump out the window. They didn't, sell drugs. They didn't do those things. You did those things. Yeah. And so when I realized that my bad choices created the bad circumstances, that was extremely liberating, because what it meant is that I was free to make good choices that would then create good circumstances. And it was like this epiphany that went off in my brain. And so as much as you can in a cell by yourself, I began to start taking ownership of my thoughts, feelings, behaviors, decisions, all that kind of stuff. So much so that my family really began to like, because I would have a phone call a week. That's all they would give me. Not that, like, I could call them every day on my hour out if I wanted, but my family would pick up the phone once a week. They'd cut me off. I'd burned every bridge.
Wow.
And in those weekly phone calls, my family started to notice a huge change in my attitude.
Who'd you call?
My grandma Barb.
Okay.
Yep. And I would call my grandma Barb, and usually it would be on Sunday night, and my mom would be over there, and my brother would be over there, and and so they'd pass the phone around or whatever, and I'd talk. But they specifically, my grandma Barb is like, something's changed in him, and everyone, and a lot of people in the family told grandma she was crazy. You just got a soft spot for Brian, whatever. But she's like, no, I feel like something's changed. And
Is that your dad's mom or your mom's mom?
That's my mom's mom.
Okay.
Yep. Meanwhile, my dad's mom, the one that was teaching Sunday school for Miss K, Scott Beeston, when he interviewed me, said, who was praying for you? It was a good question. I said, well, Betty Dawson was. And lots of credit goes to her for that. But Grandma Barb, she began to really believe in me and believe that there was a change that had happened, so much so that she, so in this time period, that 4 months that I'm in there, I guess about 3 months into my ADSEG stay, my public defender came and said, okay, Brian, the district attorney, she was like really excited to give me this deal like it was a good one.
Your attorney was?
Yes, a public pretender. And she comes and says, Brian, this is great. If you sign this deal, you're only going to get 32 years with a crime of violence. And I'm like, amazing. When you're 23, 384 and 32, there's not a lot of difference, right? And so I was not real excited about that. So I called my grandma and I said, I'm going to prison for the rest of my life. Because the way it works in Colorado, it's way different than it is in Alabama. On a 32-year sentence with a crime and violence sentence enhancer, which is another way that you have a crime of violence, so they stack your sentences, then they aggravate it, and then they multiply it. So it's basically they're just going to throw everything they can at you. If you go to trial, and she explains this to me, if you go to trial, this is what they can do to you. But I tell my grandma I'm going to prison for the rest of my life, and she reaches out to these attorneys. She's got a little bit of money. She doesn't got a lot of money. She's just reaching out to these attorneys. They're like 60 grand, 120 grand, 150 grand to represent, he's got 6 felonies.
I'm underbilling myself apparently as an attorney.
Yes. Well, if you get into criminal law and you got a guy with 6 felonies, you should probably charge more. But they're like, and she's like, well, I can't afford any of that. And I said, go talk to Jeff Barker. Jeff Barker's got a great reputation for being kind of an up and coming new lawyer who's just really, really good. And she goes and sits down with him, and he's like, look, best I can do is $10,000, and if he goes to trial, I need another 10. My grandma says, I don't have another 10. He's like, well, he ain't going to trial, so I'm not that worried about it, right? So he's like, okay, $10,000, and so he ends up becoming my attorney, and we're a little bit long for him, so I'm going to go into some of this because this is really cool. I've never told this part of the story in any media hits, and so now I'm up against the wall when I try to retain this attorney. The next day, I've got to take my plea or I've got to go to trial. So they've got witnesses showing up for my trial that day. So if I don't take the plea, I go to trial.
You're down to knuckle dragging.
Down to knuckle dragging. And you're an attorney. You kind of know how some of this stuff works. Yeah. The judge says, you don't get a new attorney, buddy. No, he's not your attorney. Your attorney is this lady, and you either sign the plea or you go to trial. So I'm like, my grandma's like, my new supposed to be attorney's like, and the public defender comes over and she's like, hey, I don't know how this happened, but the one of the witnesses in the case got stuck in traffic or whatever, and she's not going to.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. All right, so we're bringing somebody on now who's been on the show multiple times. Not only has he been on the show, but he's been a proxy several times on Grand Council. He calls in just for contributor work, but he's also guest hosted for me. There have been very few that I've turned the microphone over to, and because I know they'll get it. And he always does an amazing job. So without further ado, let me just bring in the grand poobah of good publishing, the dynamic denizen of discourse, the publisher of the Trustful Tribune. That would be Scotty Buttram. Hey, Scott, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing good, Phil, but I just don't know if all that can cheer me up, man. I mean, I turned 65 on Monday, trying to get retired.
Nice.
Now I've lost my side gig with Rightside Radio. I mean, John from Huntsville is going to let me cut his yard just so I'll have some gainful employment. But I think I'm going to have to go down to the Fort Payne Walmart and see if I can be a greeter. Do they still have that?
You know what? If there's greeters out there that like you would be an amazing greeter. I'll just go ahead and say I have no doubt. Dude, you've been such a friend of this show.
Walmart would fire me for pontificating to all the customers that came into the door.
Well, listen, your gift of pontification is how we met. I mean, you've been such a friend of this show. And in fact, you also were one of the first news outlets to publish my written work too, on a regular basis, every Tuesday, I guess it was. Trustful Tribune always ran my op-eds.
Very pleased to run your op-eds, and we now carry the Jeff 4 column. And in fact, we're out there looking for somebody on the liberal side that can contribute some op-eds, because we got the strongest conservative voices in the state of Alabama on the opinion pages of the Trustful Tribune. And we would like for the folks on the other side of the aisle to at least get a word in every now and then. But you know what? We can't find anybody to submit anything.
It's funny because one of the other papers that I submit to later in the week is Gadsden Times. They called me one day and they said, "Okay, all right, we're going to make you our conservative." How they put it? We're going to make you our conservative. I said, "Okay." And they've got one lady. They alternate weeks. One lady they run. She's like as liberal a hack as you could possibly ask for. And then they run me the next week to back cleanup, I guess.
Well, I mean, I would take it. If she would send her column to us, we'd run it. We would love to have a voice on the other side. And of course, you know where I lean. And my other side of that opinion is I think having a liberal voice in there next to two great conservative voices just makes the conservative cause look that much greater.
Yes, it does. We shine by comparison.
It really does. Hey, before you get up to North Alabama and take over the Attorney General, I gotta use my connection with you to plead a case here.
Oh no!
Lieutenant Governor was on Twitter last night, and I agreed with him, saying, Colorado is filing this frivolous lawsuit against Trump over Space Command, and I thought, you know what, he's right. We've seen all these studies, we've seen all these tests. The evidence is overwhelmingly in favor of Alabama. What is to keep Alabama, and I don't know if this is a federal attorney's, U.S. attorney's deal, or this would be a state attorney general's deal, but what's to keep Alabama from suing Colorado for interfering with our economic development for 5 years as a co-conspirator with the Biden administration for blocking that?
That's an interesting dynamic, man. I think there's room in there for a countersuit, but at this point, they're the ones who filed the first action, so it would have to be a counterclaim if we have viability, if we can be shown to have a viable cause of action here. That's an interesting dynamic. So this is a weird hybrid.
Well,
it's a state
5 years for what's rightfully theirs.
That's exactly right. This is a weird hybrid case. So it's a state attorney general who's filed a federal district court case on behalf of the state, which is not uncommon. I'm just saying we got state actors and federal actors all combining. I had Congressman Dale Strong on the show yesterday, and you've heard Dale Strong speak before. He was like, "No holds barred. This is going away.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna knock it out of the park. It's all gonna be done." And I believe that. We just got to go through the machinations. To me, it's a dying gasp.
I'm just tired of frivolous suits, and I think we ought to kind of sue and make Colorado pay.
I think that's you know what? Since you're retiring, I could hire you in the office and you could help me find the things we want to go after. I'll just make you the henchman. I'll call you Lothar the henchman, and you'll come after stuff.
As long as you understand, my specialty is knowing a lot of people with law degrees, not actually understanding anything about the law myself.
No doubt. Well, listen, Scotty B, I want you to know how much I appreciate you. I mean, obviously, our friendship does not have to be relegated to whether I'm on the radio or not, but I want you to know how much I appreciate the fact that you have over the years guest hosted for me multiple times and to come on and what I love is when you just drop in the studio. Thank you very much.
It's happened. Listen, that's been my pleasure and my honor. What a great audience Rightside Radio brings every day. So to get to sit at that mic and talk to those folks, man, that's a privilege that very few people get, and I'm honored to have had it.
Well, you did good stuff. Trustful Tribune. People need to go ahead and recognize they've got localized news that still speaks the conservative values that our hometowns love. But thank you for what you do, brother, and we'll be talking again soon.
Well, thank you, Phil. Appreciate you, and best of luck.
Thank you, buddy. See you. Well, we got a few minutes here, and I'll just tell you, I got a few text messages I want to try and jump on real quick. A few. The text lines have pretty much blown up, but thank you for all of y'all that are chiming in. Coming up after the top of the hour, we're going to have State Representative Ernie Yarbrough, who's also been one of our guest hosts more than once. In fact, he's one of those that when he guest hosts, you don't have much work to do. He just goes.
Oh, let me tell you, he comes in there on two wheels and he is bam, bam, jam. I'm having this person on. You ready? You ready, JP? I'm gonna tell you. So, yeah, I mean, he is. Yes, he's awesome. Ernie Yarbrough is the best.
He's awesome. Text line, Jim from Huntsville says, Senator Colonel, I've enjoyed hearing your voice of reason these last few years, especially during all the long days of the cacistocracy before Trump was reelected. Said you helped carry me through and you reinforced the right side in the fight. Big congratulations, best to you, and blessings in Christ on your journey. And then he says, Benning. And then Jim from Huntsville. Benning. Tom with all the kids in Huntsville. Tom with all the kids says, I need an address to send something for Phil. So I don't know what that would be, but don't send edibles. But I'll let JP handle that. Scott from Russellville, Alabama says, gonna miss you, brother, Phil, but God leads you where you're needed. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Ronnie from Athens says, you ever cried to leave another job? I've had a few moments where I loved what I was doing enough to where it was hard to leave, but I think this may be one of the hardest. Pete from Decatur said, Phil, I've texted a few times, called once or twice. I've enjoyed your commentaries. Congratulations. And as a fellow lawyer, I'm very jealous because you have my dream job. Pete, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Thanks for what you do in the community. And I'll just be honest with you, I didn't see this coming, but it is a dream job for sure. And the confirmation process is still, got a lot of, hoops to jump through. I have filled out more paperwork than I ever had to fill out to have a top secret clearance to work on special projects in the Pentagon. But nonetheless, I'm looking forward to it. Badger from Athens says, Phil, thank you for the last 4.5 years. I never cared to listen to talk radio before. I would catch Rush every so often. Howard Stern turned me off, but I gave you a shot when you first started, and you never disappointed. Godspeed. Make Alabama proud. Thank you, Badger. Appreciate you, man. Who else have I got? You got any over there on your side, by the way? I can jump in over there if you want to.
Well, we got a couple, yeah. Jeff from Indiana actually commented on the YouTube live stream earlier before he called in and said, it's a bittersweet day for me, but the show must go on, and I will be here, and hopefully all my ruffian family will be too. Jeff from Indiana.
Absolutely.
And then we also got Brad Smith on the X saying, congratulations, you will be missed, but I have confidence you've set up Rightside 2.0 to be very successful.
Yep, they've got a great foundation, but they also bring their own skill sets and their own voices. So y'all know JP's voice, but Allison and Amy Beth, the Mavens of Mayhem, I christened them the other day. They're going to be awesome.
By the way, one more. Kit from Morgan County on the X stream says, wish you absolutely the best in your future endeavors. Believe you will sail through the confirmation process and will make a great U.S. attorney. We will still hear from you from that office up and upholding what is right. This will be our loss, but their gang. Kit from Morgan County.
Thank you, Kip. Appreciate it. All right, we're taking a break. Coming right back, State Representative Ernie Yarbrough. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Folks, Phil Williams here. I want to remind you that Inspire Advisors is one of our sponsors, and they are doing amazing work. Look, I know this audience. You're the kind of folks who believe in standing up for your principles. You're good stewards of your resources. But what if the companies you were investing in don't reflect your values at all? Well, that's why you need to meet Paul Breyer and his team at Inspire Advisors, because Inspire Advisors, they are experts in the field of biblically responsible investing. They can help you grow your bottom line while also be proud of what companies you're investing in. Inspire Advisors, check them out. Their website, www.moneypatternwealth.com, and tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio.
Here she has to get back to work. And so they had to delay it, and they punted for 2 weeks. And in that 2 weeks, I'm able to have him retain, and he gets me into a mediation hearing. And in the mediation hearing, this is really cool too, negotiation tactics. They were never able to. So what a mediation is, they have a retired judge. His name was Judge Toth. I'd be in one room with my attorney, is how it's supposed to work. And it's supposed to be at the courthouse. And I'm in one room, the district attorney's in another room. I'm with my attorney, and Judge Toth goes back and forth. Okay. And we, well, I think I should get 8 years. Well, we think you should get 32. Well, I think I should get 10. I think it's basically like horse trading. Okay. Well, we couldn't get our calendars to line up to get it done at the courthouse, so she had to come to the county jail on Martin Luther King Day on her day off. Okay, and she's in there in her pajamas. The deputy district attorney, she's in there in her pajamas. She's absolutely pissed that she's there, and I can see this. I'm like, she doesn't want to be here. I've got 384 years. I've got nowhere to go, and she obviously doesn't want to be here. So I just kept dragging and dragging and dragging.
We discovered years ago the best time to buy a car is right before the staff leaves for a holiday weekend.
Yeah, it's like go, go, go.
So you're in that mode right now. All right, she's in her pajamas.
She's in her pajamas. It's snowing outside, and she just doesn't want to be there. And so I keep dragging and keep counteroffering, and she loses, and she says, "That's it. 15 years with the crime of violence. That's my final offer. No way with the violence in your crime and the assault cases that you've caught in county jail, these 2 extra assault cases, will I ever drop this crime of violence?" And so on a 32-year sentence with a crime of violence, you're going to do 24. Okay, so that matters. It's a huge, like, you're going to do more of your time.
Yeah.
And then on a nonviolent, you're going to do maybe a third of your time or less. Okay. So I'm heavy focused on that crime of violence. Like, okay, we got her down to a decent year range, and I don't know where this came from. It had to have been a God thing. And I looked at my lawyer. I said, "You don't tell Judge Toth anything." I said, "You walk in there to that district attorney, go tell her that, my client doesn't want to end up in he wants to change his life. He doesn't want to end up in a maximum security prison with swastikas all over his face. He wants to change his life. He's willing to give you a year if you drop the crime of violence." And the way their thing works is like, oh, I get 16 instead of 15, cha-ching. And all of a sudden, all that, conviction about crime of violence just went out the window.
So she got a trophy, basically.
Correct. Yeah. And so I gave her the year, which is that's good for her. So she drops the crime of violence, and I get 16 years with no crime of violence is what I ended up getting sentenced to. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
That is crazy. You are into sales.
Yeah. And I was the happiest person ever to be sentenced to 16 years. Like, yay, 16 years in prison. But again, everything's relative when you face it to 32 or 384. Yeah.
All right. You said in one interview I saw with you, I've forgotten, it's some folks that you had known, but they have their own podcast, Emily and somebody else. I've forgotten the guy's name, the husband and wife team.
Chris and Emily, yeah.
Yeah, Chris and Emily. But at one point you said in that solitary confinement where you began having that epiphany about accepting responsibility for your own actions and you're not a victim of that, you felt like God had thumped you.
Yes.
But you still weren't there yet.
Yeah.
But then you started meeting and hanging out with a guy who, in your words, what I saw was he began to drop seeds of the gospel in your life.
100%.
And was that in prison? Was that in county jail? Where was
Prison.
that? That was prison.
Yeah. So here I am. God thumps me on the head and shows me it's my fault.
Right.
Shortly after that, I get into this negotiation hearing.
Right.
My heart's softened to the idea of God and him working in my life.
Because he has been.
Because he has been. And then I get 16 instead of 32, so now I'm looking at getting out in 5 years instead of 24 or never. So I knew God had moved. And so I'm like, okay. But I was always open to God. I always prayed to God. I always knew that God was real. I had some experiences in church growing up that were like bad experiences, but good experiences. I don't know how to really describe it. Like, these people had something that I wanted, but I also saw how judgmental and kind of hypocritical that they were. Yeah. And so I was just like, but I knew that God was real. And so I prayed. Like, when I was a kid, I prayed. Through my addiction, I prayed. When I was a fugitive, I prayed a bunch. And when I was in county jail, I prayed even more, wondering about what my sentence was. I knew God was real. But I didn't understand how Jesus factored into it. And no one ever really taught me about Jesus. So I was agnostic. I knew that God was there, but I didn't understand how it worked, right?
Yeah.
And so I get to the first prison I get to is called Huerfano County Correctional Center, which is in Walsenburg, Colorado. You go in there, you got in Colorado you wear greens, and so you got your greens on, and you've got a couple extra pairs of greens and a couple pairs of state issued underwear, like a cup and a spoon, and you walk into your unit, and the thing slams behind you, and you're now in your unit. That's got 120 guys in there. You're like, okay, what's about to happen? Because the new guy comes in, fish, fresh fish. And here comes this big, huge dude with a Semper Fi tattoo on his arm.
Oh, former Marine, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, always a Marine, they say. True. I've made the mistake of calling him a former Marine and been corrected 17 times. But he walks up and reaches out and shakes my hand. He says, "My name's Charles. I'm a Christian, and this is a faith pod." And so all the movies that were going off in my head about the doors slamming and someone coming up to stab me having to.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. And oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 on a Friday afternoon. We're going to get you all the way to go home time. And listen, you've been hearing from voices like the voices of Rightside, I guess, the Rightside family. There's so many of you. I've been reading out texts when I have a moment between calls. We've had podcasters on with us. We've had people who have been guest hosts and guests on the show. We've had family. And there's somebody else who has guest hosted for me multiple times, who every time he comes in is like, okay, no more caffeine for Ernie. The guy comes in and just takes a microphone and runs, brother. And he's always got content. He's always got words, and he's always got the ability to convey a conservative message. It's State Representative Ernie Yarbrough, who hails from House District 7. And I've got stories about Ernie, but right now what I'm going to do is quit talking, just bring him on. Ernie Yarbrough, my brother, how you doing?
Brother, I am doing fantastic, and it is so good to hear your voice. So thank you for honoring me to have me on this special day, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, listen, I am glad to do it, and I want you to know how much I appreciate you. And I got to tell a story. So a few years ago, you were running against an incumbent Republican, and you know the deal. If somebody's got a primary, that means either A, they're doing a bad job, or B, somebody just wants their job. Well, you were running against a guy named Proncy Robertson, and there was a real sense that he was kind of a middle of the road. He wasn't super conservative. He wasn't doing all the things that we wished he would do. So you decided to run. And I'll never forget this. This is where you and I really got to kind of know each other. I came to be the moderator at the event, which was kind of a forum, not really a debate, but a forum. And you were on stage with Proncy. And you did such a bang up job answering the questions that I got accused of giving you the answers after it was over with. And that was amazing.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. And it was so funny. It was just, what was funny was, in light of all of that, I'm like, I felt like the accusation just highlighted the difference, because you know how I prepared for that forum? I prepared for it by saying, okay, I read 1819 News. I listen to Phil Williams. I've grown up in a Republican conservative home, where we sit around the table and we talk, and I had helped people run for office, because when you're homeschooled or you're conservative and you actually read the Constitution at 12 years old and you're weird, you're fodder for door knocking material, right?
Yeah.
So the way that I prepared for this forum / mini debate or whatever is I just said, okay, what are all the conservative issues that we as conservatives care about, not just in general, but particularly like in light of COVID and all that stuff. And I just started researching. I reached out to conservative groups that, were voices for those issues. And I made like a Kelly McEnany folder with all the tabs for the different things. I literally just prepared for it because I knew what conservatives care about. And I thought, that just highlights the issue. And it was obvious that it seemed like the other side never listened to your radio show because you were a perfect choice to moderate a conservative Republican discussion. And shocker, news alert, we're going to talk about conservative Republican things. Whatever. It was so funny, man.
It was funny. And the very idea that later on, hey, Phil, I just want you to know there's some concern that you may have given Ernie the answers to the questions. What are you talking about? No. But anyway, listen, and I tell you what's also been a kick is that same night, it blessed me because, and I hope she's listening right now, but if not, she'll listen to it later on the podcast. I know a lot of times she does, is your cousin Crystal. I met her that night. She was working your booth, I think, giving out like stuff afterwards. And she told me, she goes, and I was fairly new on the air. That was what, my first or second year on the air, I guess. And she told me, she goes, when Rush Limbaugh passed away, she said, I was just devastated.
Yep.
And then I heard your show and you rattled paper one time and I thought it's going to be okay. But I thought that's just good.
Yes. Well, and I felt drawn to you, Phil, because like when I tuned into your radio station, and so I forget, I don't remember who it was told me, you got to listen to this guy. I'm like, yes, great. And so here I am getting involved in politics. And, it just felt like when you are a conservative Republican who votes and you try, and I'm not perfect, but when you're trying to follow your conservative God-fearing principles, and, we just came through COVID, whereas like all the media was primed, prepped, and funded to lie about conservative faith-based people, to slander, to smear, to suppress, to destroy. And it's like, here's this 1819 news. No news outlet is perfect, but man, they do a bang up job. And they're focused on, grassroots support and getting the truth out there and doing the old school journalism. And here comes the radio. His deal is like, this guy, Phil Williams, is speaking the truth, and he's bringing conservative, scripture-based thought processes, and he's platforming. You're platforming people who have been deplatformed, who have been lied about, slandered, suppressed.
That's right.
And all the things. And it was like God was answering prayer, and God was providing a voice where, the Bible talks about that there's a voice crying in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord. And while it's ultimately true about Christ, in a lesser way, we participate in that. And one of the ways we do that is by God giving us platforms to speak. And I'll never forget when I got elected by the grace of God, and we're in there, Representative Mark Gidley quoted the verse from Esther. God put you here, and if you're silent, he will raise up deliverance from another place, but don't be silent because he put you here for such a time as this. And that's really, your radio show. Like even, Josh from Moulton.
Oh, yeah.
And he said it too. He said, when I could be having a discouraging day, turn on Phil, and I'm like, you know what? Today's a good day.
Oh, wow.
And so God has used you in so many ways, brother. And when I think of you, I think of, obviously, I love Braveheart and Scotland and all those things.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so the quote I shared, there were two quotes from Braveheart last night on my slides, on my little video for my campaign kickoff dinner. And one of them is, it says that, your title gives you claim to the throne of Scotland, but men don't follow titles, they follow courage. And that's why God's given you an organic audience, because you speak not only with truth, but courage. And the other thing that he said there was, he said that he was challenging the nobles. He's like, what does that mean to be noble? No, that's a title, right? He said, you think that the people exist to give you position, but I think your position exists to give them freedom.
There you go.
And I mean to go and see that they have it. That's what you have done by the grace of God with the platform God has given you. The people don't exist to give Phil Williams a rating. You exist, and you have been faithful to give them freedom.
Wow. Man, I tell you what, I'm going to have JP get that transcribed for me and hang it on a wall. But that's one of the things I love about you is your ability to take history and scripture and speak blessings. So, man, thank you so much for what you do. And by the way, you just kicked off your campaign again. So you're running for re-election, which I'm glad. So I'm wondering when it's going to be like Ernie for governor, but okay.
Well, let's give a chance for a term or 2 or 3 to get my District 7 squared away, and we'll seek the Lord for the next thing. But I tell you what, if and when we decide to do something bigger and better, once we're faithful where God has put us and make a difference there, you will be one of the first to know. I promise you that.
Well, I'm proud to know you. I'm proud to call you friend. I'm proud that you've been a part of this show, and I'm also proud that you were a guest host for me multiple times. Ernie Yarbrough, House District 7 State Representative. You get her done, brother, and we'll talk to you again soon, all right?
Sounds good. Love you, brother. God bless you.
You too. Thanks, man. Well, that's just cool. I mean, if the man comes on my show and quotes me Braveheart.
I need Ernie Yarbrough as a pep talk every morning. Just have him ready and hit me with the motivational speech. I'm ready to go.
Can you make him my ringtone?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we're taking a break. We're coming right back, and y'all need to stay tuned because coming up next is the lovely Charlene. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
If I was tough, like there's all the things that I thought could have, would have, should have. But this big, burly, huge dude who definitely could have beat me up is like, my name's Charles. I'm a Christian. This is a faith pod. That wasn't on the, on the bingo card. That's correct. We're not on the bingo card. Yep. And I'm like, okay, Charles, what is a faith pod? And he goes, man, we do discipleship in here. And, we do Bible studies. We do discipleship. And I take seminary classes on the weekends. And we do praise and worship every single morning. And they did. And
he's saying words you don't even know.
Yeah, and I'm like, I have to get out of here immediately. That was my response to that.
Put you in the cult ward.
Get me out of here. You ever seen Happy Gilmore when? Anyway, there's the scene with the lady in the old folks' home where she falls and get me out of here. But that's how I felt. I was like, I got to get out of here. But it's prison, and it turns out you can't get out of there. Who knew? And so I was stuck, and it was a good thing. And Charles really just became my friend. He didn't browbeat me. He didn't, he wasn't over the top. He was my friend, and, you get in there, you don't have coffee, you don't have soups, you don't have, sweats, you don't have any of that stuff. And so he gave me, all those things like, here, you need some of this, you need some of this. Hey, if you need anything, let me know. So he just became my friend, and his conversation would turn to a subject or a situation. He would kind of Socratically ask me questions.
He would weave Jesus into it.
And he would weave Christ into the questioning and say, have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought about that? And I remember one of the funniest ones he did was, this is pre-saved Brian in prison, okay? And I'm talking about, girls and having sex with girls and all this other stuff. And Charles just looks at me, he's like, but wouldn't it be like so much more beautiful if like you just didn't have sex again until you got married? And I died laughing so hard and just pointing at Charles like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. But you know what? Flash forward, that's exactly what I ended up doing. Yeah. And it was because of that question that happened before I got saved that Charles did. So go ahead.
No, I got to say, part of my weird resume is that I spent 7 years in full-time ministry with an organization called Young Life.
Yeah.
Which is headquartered in Colorado Springs, by the way. I spent time in Springs because of that. Yeah. Love that city. Probably back when you were actually messing up things. But we called it relational evangelism.
Yeah.
It was earning the right to share your faith is what we called it.
Yeah.
And it was not relationship, with a catch. It was relationship with purpose. And also, oh, by the way, if you don't love Jesus, I'm still going to love you.
Yeah.
So it was true friendship, but we earned the right to share our faith, we called it. And there's a passage of scripture just came to me while we're sitting here talking, hearing you say it. I believe it's in Thessalonians, 1 Thessalonians. It says, because we loved you so much, we were content not just to share the gospel, but our very lives as well.
Yeah.
Meaning the gospel's really important, but I'm even going to share who I am in a relationship with you. And that's where Charles was, it sounds like.
Yep, 100%.
Very cool. All right, so you're hanging out with Charles.
Hanging out with Charles. We're at Walsenburg about a year in. I don't remember exactly how it breaks down. He gets shipped to Sterling Correctional Facility. So I'm there on my own. Huerfano County Correctional Center in Walsenburg was a private prison. So it was like Corporations Correction of America, or I guess they call it some other company now, Core Civic. It was one of those prisons, and it got shut down. And so I get moved to Benton County, which is another Core Civic prison. It was Corrections Corporation of America at the time. I'm there for 6 months, and then they moved me to Canyon City, to Arrowhead Correctional Center, which is like Camp Cupcake. Okay. And so they moved me to Camp Cupcake, and they didn't know they made a mistake. With my sentence and how much time I have, I'm not allowed to be at Camp Cupcake, right? I'm not supposed to be. And I'm there for like 2 months, and it's up in the mountains in Canyon City, Colorado. I'm like, man, I can get used to this. It was like God gave me a little vacation. And then once they figured it out, they ended up shipping me to Sterling Correctional Facility. I walk out on the yard at Sterling Correctional Facility, which is a massive prison, right? There's 4 separate yards, so I didn't have to land on the yard with him. But I walk out on they call it the 20s yard where I was, and boom, there's Charles.
How about that?
Right away. So
back together again.
Yeah.
Pick up where you left off.
Yeah. And he was a softball coach. That was his way of doing evangelism. He put together a softball team, and it was like, is it? I remember how shocked I was when I walked into a medium security prison. So there's like killers and everything in this prison. And there's a softball team which requires these things called metal bats. I'm like, they have metal bats in prison? Like, that seems counterintuitive.
Who thought this was okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he did. He coached a softball team, and I was the third baseman, and that was his way that he would evangelize guys. And so I get to Sterling, and he's like, hey, what was great about Sterling is they had grass. So I was excited to play softball there, but that's neither here nor there. And so he's like, man, you want to play softball again? Yeah. So he's just doing the same thing, friends, ministering, planting seeds. And he goes, man, Brian, you got parole coming up in a couple of years. You really need to get you some certificates for the parole board. I'm like, great. And he's like, well, I'm the chaplain's assistant. I can get you into some programs. And the chaplain's office was over all the programs, secular or otherwise.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. Well, I'll tell you somebody else who's been saving the world. She is right here in studio. So my better 3/4 is the lovely Charlene, who is right here with us. Hi, baby. How are you?
Hey, honey. I'm happy to be here.
Did you ever imagine? I mean, it's not easy being married to me sometimes, but did you ever imagine we'd do radio? I mean, what were your thoughts when all this came up? Just for the benefit of the audience.
Well, part of me is like, wait, what? Kind of like what Caitlin said. But the other part of me has learned not to be too surprised because you're an adventure, a daily adventure.
I'm a daily adventure.
Yes, you are.
Well, I have said multiple times on the air, I mean, you're the one that first said to me, there's more of us than there are of them.
Yes, I did.
So that became part of the fabric of the show. But
because it was true. It is absolutely true.
It is true. Yeah. So I was going to ask you about that. The genesis of that phrase. What made you say that? Why do you say that? What's the impetus behind that phrase?
During 2020, I became so discouraged. And, we get beat up right and left. And in thinking about it and talking to people, it just dawned on me, there are more of us than the crazy people. And that helped me to think about that. So I wanted your listeners to be encouraged by that as well.
Well, and I don't know if the ruffians out there, I mean, I quote you, and I talk about the lovely Charlene all the time. We've been married 39 years coming up here pretty soon. But I don't think they realize how much input you've had in the background. You've heard a lot of the monologues before anybody else does. You've any number of times given me input for the Dippers, and you'll text me during the show. And then the funny stuff is when you actually text me during the show and tell me you need to lighten up a little bit or something.
It's a hard job trying to keep you in line, Philip Wayne.
So, funny story about the lovely Charlene. Years ago, when I was in the Senate, we, as Republicans, we decided transparency was a good thing, and it needed to be. And so we put cameras in the Senate chamber. First time in the history of the entire state Senate that there was like audio and video. You could actually watch what's happening. And who does that? It's like C-SPAN. Well, my lovely wife does that because she was into politics way before I ever was. I mean, I remember in college when I first met you, Henry Kissinger was you're like a Henry Kissinger fan club member. And, but so I'm standing there debating at the well of the Senate at the podium, just going at it with a Democrat on something. And my phone was on the podium and I heard it ding, and out of muscle memory habit, I looked down, and it's you going, "Smile more," while I'm debating.
You always looked mad. I was like, "You're not a mean person. You need to smile."
Well, your interest has been politics a lot longer than me. In fact, you were a political science major in college way back. I don't think I even knew what politics was. I did vote my very first time when I was 18, but you were like into politics.
I stumbled into it, actually. I took a political science course just, as a routine filler, and I loved it. And I took another one, and I ended up getting a double major, and they tried to get me to stay to get my master's, but I was ready to move on. But yes, I still love it. I mean, even if you weren't in it, I would be still keeping up with it.
So on Sunday mornings, the way it times out for us to go to church, it works out perfectly for Charlene to have a chance to drink coffee and watch Maria Bartiromo on Fox every Sunday morning before we go to church.
She has the best guests, and she has the best questions. And even if you don't watch Fox, if you just, look on things on the internet, you'd be wise to keep up with that because she's ahead of the curve.
Well, so baby, it's been 4.5 years.
4.5, honey.
4.5 of every morning early. You find me already working on the show when you get up.
It's true.
And
I get up at 6:30, so you've already been hard at it.
And then every Saturday morning, we can't go anywhere till I finish writing my op-ed.
Truth.
What are we going to do?
I don't know. But, it's like I can't think about that yet. I remember a couple months ago when we knew that this was coming to a close, and you said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I think I'm going through a grieving process about Rightside." I mean, I was just so sad, and it hit you not long afterwards. I remember.
Yeah.
And the reason is I love the forum, that you can speak into the issues. And of course, 99.9% of the time, I agree with you, because it's so frustrating to look around the world and see what's going on. And of course, I could always text you and tell you what else you could say. But also, I just have come to love the listeners so much. Yeah. And, it just makes me sad. I remember that's part of what I was grieving. It's just being out and about and meeting one of the listeners was so fun. June Bug from Hartselle. I remember we were at an event and met her, and there's many, many others.
Allie from Athens. And
well, she's like family.
Yeah, I know. There's been so many names that have become a part of our repertoire. We can be, and by the way, we actually refer to y'all by your name and place. So that's how we know you. And so if we're talking and like you and I will be sitting there eating dinner or whatever, hey, Allie from Athens called and she said, hey, Jeff from Indiana said,
Truth.
Hey, did you hear when Badger from Athens said, we do that. Hey, did you hear what John from Huntsville said? And and that's the way we refer to y'all. But it's really been something. I think it's also it's obvious it's grown, but I think that the relational aspect of the show has grown. Don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, it started off, I think, me speaking out. I think it really turned into them speaking in
yes.
as much as anything. The next phase, though, is our nephew is going to take it to 2.0.
I know. And I look at it like JP's the bridge. It makes me feel so much better that he's going to still be around. And the two ladies, oh my gosh, they're going to be so fun.
I'm about to say, with the help of two magnificent ladies, Allison and Beth.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
It's cool. But did you find it funny though that we've known him all of his life and that we didn't know he had this ability to speak on a microphone?
I think a lot of the family didn't realize it.
I didn't realize. I mean, I don't. I still, can't believe that I'm actually talking for a living because I never talk. I don't like to talk outside of the radio show.
Well, what's funny is you referred to yourself with me in a conversation recently as a extroverted introvert.
I'm an introverted extrovert.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah. All right, baby, we're gonna take a break, and you're still in the studio with me. You can't leave yet, okay?
Okay.
All right, we're taking a break. We're with the lovely Charlene. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Cool. Yeah. Get me in. And, he gets me into them, and it's they're faith-based programs.
Ah.
And so I got in there, and I'm like, Charles. So I get
snuck
in.
that gospel in on you again.
He did. And but it was really interesting. And I get in there, and the first program was like kumbaya, come as you are. You know, it was very, you know, it was not very high theology. It was not rigorous. It was just like, we want to love on you. But in that program, there was like 5 or 6 other guys that were like Charles, guys who'd been down for like 20 years that were men, and they were steeped in the word. And I got around those guys, and I'm just like, geez, like I'm drawn to this, but I can't admit it. And so that program ends, and I went to Charles. I'm like, hey man, I think I need some more certificates for the parole board. And he's like, okay,
wink, wink, nod, nod.
And so he gets me into this next one. Well, it was very high theology, and it was very rigorous, and it was very much, this is what the Word of God says. It's called The Truth Project with Dr. Del Tackett, which is Christian Worldview and Apologetics.
I got it written down. I was going to ask you about it.
So good. Like, I highly recommend everything Del Tackett does. Everyone should just go and look at all of it. I mean, he did Answers in Genesis. He does The Truth Project. He's got, you know, so many great things. Watch, you know, but what this one's Christian Worldview and Apologetics. You come in, you watch an hour-long video, and then you have an hour-long table discussion afterwards. And I would watch the hour-long video that was, you know, very, this is what the Word of God says, this is this, but it's like applying it to creation and politics and culture. And it was just, it was
giving you a base.
Yeah. And it was so good. Yeah, so good. But when you're not a Christian, it's not so good, right? And so I'm like, this is bull crap. I hate this. You guys are stupid. And I did. I told those guys at the table, if you believe this crap, you guys are idiots. You're stupid. And I always tell people, it's like, just because they're Christians doesn't mean they're not convicts, okay? And so, like, you tell someone, even us, like, if someone came up and, like, put their finger in our face and said, you're stupid for believing Jesus, I don't know. I hope that I wouldn't punch him in the face, right? But so here I am in prison doing just that, and Charles is just done. He's just, like, throwing his hands in the air. He's like, oh, my gosh. And so this goes on for, like, 2 or 3 weeks where I'm, like, full tilt arguing with these guys. And we walk back to the unit. And, you know, so here's the education building, our unit's over here, and there's a sidewalk that you got to walk around like that. And we're walking back, and we get to about right here, and Charles just looks over at me, and he says, Brian, why don't you give him a chance? Why don't you give him a chance? Jesus being to give him a chance, right? And for whatever reason, in God's sovereignty, as I look at it, that was the moment, okay? And all my guard, all my, you know, defensive mechanisms, for whatever reason, I just said, okay. And kind of as I said earlier, I knew God was real, but I didn't understand Jesus. And he's asking me to give Jesus a chance, not God, but Jesus, which was different. I said, okay. So I went back to my cell and prayed, as I often did. And I said, God, if I need to believe this Jesus character was truly your son, these were my problems with Jesus, okay? And it turns out they're pretty big issues. Said, if this Jesus character was truly your son, that he was born of a virgin, that he lived a perfect, I'm scoffing as I say all this, I'm like, he lived a perfect life, that he died and his death did something for me, and that he rose from the dead. God, if I need to believe that to be okay with you, I need you to show me something, because I'm having a really hard time with this. So I go to sleep that night, and I have a horrible, horrible nightmare. I mean, it was a crazy nightmare, and I still remember, like, a lot of it, which is crazy, but it didn't make a lot of sense what was happening in it, like fat, flashing faces. It even felt demonic. Right.
Well, it probably was.
Yeah. And I'm falling off of a cliff at the end of it. And right before I hit the ground, I wake up, like when you're falling in a
like
dream.
real life wake up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like wake up. Whoa. And the only thing I can see, it's completely dark in the cells. And we have those old red digital clocks. Right. And so the only thing you can see in the room when I wake up is the red digital clock. And it says 3:16.
Huh.
And the only Bible verse I've ever known my entire life is John 3:16. And it just, boom. Right, and that was the answer to my question, right? For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. You asked, I answered, buddy. It's Sunday morning at 3:16 in the morning. What are you going to do? I guess I'm going to church. So I did. I waited till 8, and I went to Christian services, as they call it in prison, because they have to be politically correct. Went to Christian services, and you know, I don't remember. I sat as far off to the back, to the side as I could with my friend Ramon that was on the softball team. Ramon's such a cool dude. He's giant black.
Hey, all you right side ruffians out there, you are listening to Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Man, covering down on some major ground across the Southeast U.S. of A. Y'all talk about this show. This show goes like from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga, and I'm talking about Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveless little village on the plains we call Auburn. War Eagle, straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. Big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And oh, by the way, that's just the radio. Then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web and logging in on the live stream, audio and video, looking inside the studio in places if you get it from like X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then there's all you podcasters who catch it after the fact, which I'm blessed to find out in my last week, y'all pushed it over 370,000 downloads of the show podcast. So that being said, wherever you catch this show, wherever it is, we could see it, we know it, we're aware of it, and we appreciate it. We do not take it for granted. Thank you, because you're the whole reason why we get behind the microphone every single day.
371.6 thousand.
371.6 thousand.
All-time downloads.
Baby, can you imagine? 371,000 downloads of the podcast.
Amazing.
It is amazing. Hey, by the way, hon, I was going to tell you, text lines have blown up today, and I can't even get to them all. There's so many. But Chef Ben just texted in.
Oh, hey, Chef Ben.
Chef Ben just texted in. He's actually catered for us for it too. It's amazing.
One of the best steaks I have
oh
ever
my
eaten.
gosh. Chef Ben texted, said, farewell, Colonel, ruffian for life.
Oh, sweet.
All right. I'm sitting here with the lovely Charlene, who y'all have heard of so many times, but you don't often get to hear from her because she likes being on the microphone, not very much. But that being said, sweet little bitty woman, 4.5 years. You listen to the show pretty much every day. I mean, full time. Like, what's funny, y'all, is how many times I'll realize, wait, she's out running errands, or she's walking around the grocery store listening to the show, or doing the things you run around and you always had it on.
Yes, that is true.
That being said, is there anything in the 4.5 years that you remember, like, wow, that was a thing, or that was impactful, or that was a moment I'll never forget?
Oh, without question, the debacle of Biden pulling out of Afghanistan the way he did.
Oh, yeah.
That was traumatizing.
Yeah.
Because you were there for a whole year.
Yeah.
The kids and I were back here. And then to see how poorly that was executed. And I don't even have words. I just remember that day. I was so upset. And that sweet Gold Star mom called in.
Darlene from
Decatur.
Yep.
I'll never forget that day.
Yep. That was a day, I think, and I'd only been on the air for like a month, maybe a month and a half. And I think that was a day that it affirmed for me that I'm in a place where what I say can matter. So you got to take care and not just be callous or indifferent with what you say, because what you say can matter. And there's going to be times and places when you're able to speak into a moment and people are going to need to hear what you have to say. Not that I'm important. It's because God gave you the words to say into a moment, or with some basis of experience or whatever else in Afghanistan. That was, I would say that at 4.5 years, that was one of those moments for me too, and it really became more than a moment. It became weeks.
Yes, it did.
As that whole thing played out. And then the attack at Abbey Gate, and all of it, I almost felt like, the show became group therapy for so many people, for weeks. But that was to me, I think, when I decided I can't get off the air anytime soon. I can't. I got to be here.
Yes. Well, I'm convinced God put you where you have been for a reason. And, even though it's bittersweet about moving on, I can move on. And I know you feel this way too, because we know God has ordained a next step for us to step into.
Yeah. And a heck of a thing. I mean, granted, I have a confirmation process to go through, but we feel good about it. Would be a heck of a thing, JP, if I don't get confirmed. But no, we have every reason to believe what?
No, of course you'll get confirmed. Why wouldn't you get confirmed?
I agree. They did ask me, though, during one of my interviews, is there anybody, Mr. Williams, you think would not want you to be a U.S. attorney? I said, every Democrat in the state of Alabama.
Absolutely.
But Hun, I think that one of the things you and I have talked about more than once is the fact that this also gave us a platform to share our love for the Lord and
Yes.
to make no bones about it. And I'll say it right now, Jesus is Lord. I believe that with all my heart. He's the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except by him. He's the author, the finisher of our faith. And I got to say it every day. I got to say it whenever I felt like it.
Yes, you did.
To an audience of tens of thousands. And that was a high honor.
Amen. I mean, that's an eternal thing. And I think, I really believe the third great awakening has started. And, we're moving into a time where, you just see things happening and know, wow, this is craziness. But, God is our rock. And you and I know that. And the more people that we can explain that's where our peace comes from, even during hard times.
Yeah.
So that they can know that same peace. There's
Yeah.
nothing like it.
Yeah. It's the peace that surpasses all
All
understanding.
understanding. That's right.
And there have been times when you and I didn't understand what was happening because this had not been an easy road
Phil
either.
Wayne. No, it is not.
y'all, anybody out there thinks this has been a lark? You didn't get to see the business end of running a Right Side Media.
Let's start a media company. It'll be big
Whoop,
fun.
whoop, yay! But no, it's we've been blessed and we made it through, baby. There were times I thought we were going to shut down the doors or not be able to pay the power bill or whatever else, and Lord God, we got through. But nonetheless, you have stood beside me the entire time, and you have provided as much input to the show as anybody. And your name, as the lovely Charlene, is a part of the fabric of the show too. So I love you, and I'm thankful.
Well, thank you, honey. I love you. I'm so proud of you.
Well, thank you. Okay, we're gonna be moving to the next phase of the show here in just a few minutes, but I want to catch a few text messages before we do, because they're piling in and I can't get to them, and I want to do some honor to the people who are texting the show. Love you, honey. Bye.
Love you, honey.
All right. John from Harvest texted in. He says, Brother Williams, your show has been one of my favorite things to listen to in the afternoons, and I'll miss hearing what you have to say on any given topic. Good luck, and may the Lord bless you in your new role. Thank you so much. Lisa from Huntsville says, this is a long one. She says, Phil, I will certainly miss listening to you every afternoon. I've really enjoyed your show. I've also enjoyed and greatly appreciated your love and knowledge of the law. Just want you to also know that I would listen to the podcast of the show while we were in Japan earlier this month. How about that? That's cool. Says, may God continue to bless you and Charlene and the rest of your family as you embark on this next chapter. Thank you for all you do for the political realm as well as the kingdom. Lisa, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. Scott from Ardmore says, I know your army just like me, but I wish you fair winds and following seas, sir. All my best, Colonel. Bravo Zulu. Scott, appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Penny from Athens says, well, the lovely Charlene is definitely lovely. That's all caps too, by the way, babe. Oh. Definitely lovely. May God bless you both on your new adventure. Love you, Phil. Penny from Athens and Marshall from Dubai.
Yeah, that's his wife. Yes.
Nice. Oh. Nice. By the way, Penny, does Marshall from Dubai really just sell sunscreen? Is that all he does? Gary MS from Huntsville says, I knew I was going to miss you, but that last segment with Charlene really sent it home. Rush, Bongino, and Phil. I don't deserve that, but thank you very much. Thomas from Athens says, Thomas, I did see it come through on my phone, man. I will check that out. So thank you very much. And Charlene said over here, she goes, I love Thomas. What else we got in here? I'm scrolling down. Nick from Harvest says, Charlene, you sound like Phil's lucky to have you. Do you agree? Yes, you do.
Of course.
Shorty from Anderson says, hey, Phil, just wanted to say congratulations for being nominated U.S. Attorney for Alabama. You're going to be truly missed by all that listen to this program. I also want to state that you have helped me through some of the most dark times of my life, whether it was through your monologue or just hitting the nail on the head. And I want to thank you for that. You're going to be truly missed, my friend. God bless you and your family moving forward with God's will and his love. Shorty, thank you. I could go all day with that. That's a great one.
By the way, I mean, we're not going to have time next segment, but John's put in the grades on the YouTube. So we might as well go ahead and.
Let me get Crystal, then you get the grades. How about that? Crystal from Moulton, cousin Crystal, we love you. Charlene just said, oh, it's Crystal. Cousin Crystal says, I'm listening today. I'm holding back tears. I'm meeting you as an honor. Rush 2.0. Well, I don't deserve that, but I'm proud to know you. Thank you, Crystal. All right, let me turn it over to get the grades from John. What you got over there, buddy?
JP and all of Phil's very special guests get a perfect A triple plus, but I have to declare that the magnificent Phil Williams today's winner with a very rare A quadruple plus. Congratulations, my friend.
Perfect. And on that note, we'll take a break. Last break. It's my last break, baby. Last break. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I'm talking like waist this big, perfect six pack, pecs this big, arms just huge, dude. And I had this thing where, and it was a problem in prison. It's the Ned Flanders Christianity. I don't know if you know what I mean by that. If you ever watched The Simpsons, Ned Flanders. Oh, yeah. Okay, so like okie diddly okie doke. It's like this soft kind of weak, effeminate, gay thing. Like a lot of Christians, they're like nicer than God and holier than Jesus. You know what I mean? It's just a weird thing. And so I always rubbed me the wrong way. But here's Ramon, this dude. Like, anyway, I'm not gonna like. He's not that guy. That's what I'll say, right? And he was the guy that brought the blood gang from California to Colorado, cold-blooded killer until God got a hold of him. And now he's like the prison evangelist. These young guys come in, and he was in Unit 21, which is where you go when you first get to Sterling. And then from Unit 21, you get sent out to all the other buildings. But they kept him in there, and these new guys would come in, specifically young black guys, and he would like body him up and be like, "This is the gospel," you know what I mean? And like it was crazy, it was really interesting. So anyway, this is the guy that I went to go sit in church with because I don't want to be around any of the Ned Flanders guys, you know what I mean? And I wasn't going to let Charles think that he won, And so I sit off to the side in the back, and I don't remember anything Chaplain Davis said. I don't remember what the sermon was on at all. But at the end, he says, "All right, guys, we're going to do an invitation." I look over at Ramon. I'm like, "Brother, what's an invitation?" I just knew he was going to be like, "Brother, that's where you invite Jesus into your heart." But that's not what he said. He said, "Brother, if you got something hindering your relationship with God, you can go down there and pray with that man about it." And he stepped aside because he already knew that God was on me. As they say in the South, I've learned some Alabama euphemisms. God was on me like a pack of dogs on a three-legged cat. Anyway, so I walk the aisle, as it were, the proverbial aisle, get down there. Chaplain Davis grabs my hand, puts his other hand on my shoulder. He says, "Mr. Dawson, how can I pray for you?" So look, chap, I'm not here to make any decisions. I just want to pray that God would soften my heart so the truth can come in, because I feel him working on me, but I'm fighting him with everything I have. And we get done praying, and he's just got tears pouring down his face. And Chaplain Davis is not a tears down the face guy. He's not a hugger. He's not a crier. He's just, he's a man, and again, I'm a man and I hug and I cry, but like he's not that kind of man. And to see him weeping in front of 130 inmates, I was like, what just happened? And I count that the moment that God saved me. And so I leave there, and Charles gives me a Bible, Thomas Nelson, New King James Bible. Here you go. And I said, start reading the story of Joseph. And so I get back to my cell, and I start reading the story of Joseph, and I'm hooked. I can't get enough, feasting on God's word. And that goes on for about 9 months. It went on long past that, but about 9 months into me feasting on God's word, really just being shaped and molded by his word, loving it, feasting on it, it changing me. Mm-hmm. About 9 months into that, I look around and all my friends in there have pen pals. They've got some girl they're writing, right? Yeah. And I'm just like, let's see. So I call my mom. My mom was running a Facebook page for me, and so what that looks like is she logs in, but like the account she logs into has my picture on it, where I'm not in prison. That's my bait. Look, I'm not in prison, but I really am. And so she's running this Facebook page.
So your mom's catfishing for you.
She's catfishing for me, yeah. And we were very unsuccessful at first, and so I say, basically like, look, don't reach out to these girls. They're from my bad past.
It's cool that your mom was doing that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And she. So we reached out to all these girls that were like healthy and went to college and weren't drug addicts. Well, I don't know if you know this about healthy girls who aren't drug addicts. They're not real big on writing guys in prison. So those, you have to pick one or the other. You can either have the unhealthy girl that'll write.
I've never studied that, but I can imagine it. Yeah,
no,
okay.
it's there. And so I struck out completely, and I said, okay, God, I can't take any more rejection. If you want me to have a pen pal, you are going to have to do it, because I'm done.
We're talking old school, write it down on a piece of paper, pen pal.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, everybody in there. Yeah,
put it in an envelope, snail mail it out.
Yep. Correct. Yep. And
And the prison probably has to read your letter to make sure it doesn't say anything, right?
I think they read a lot more of the ingoing than they do the outbound, but it depends. Like if you're writing from prison to prison, they read both. Like they have some system. I don't know how they do it, but there's definitely people who wrote some stuff they shouldn't have that got in trouble, and I can't remember which direction the mail was going. But you don't seal it.
Yeah.
You put it in there and it's open. I remember that now that you say that, because I always say, oh yeah, I sealed it, but I actually no, you don't. You put your thing in there and you put your stamp on it and you drop it in the mailbox, and then they go through and open it and look at it and then send it out. So forgot about that now that you bring that up. So no one wants to write me. Said, okay, God, you're gonna have to do it. Told my mom I'm done. Whatever. And so I don't know, 2-3 weeks, maybe it was a month, I don't know, it goes by.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower, saving the world one soundbite at a time, giving you all the truth you can slap on a bumper sticker, pulling pins on truth grenades, bulletproof influence, man. All those phrases I've been saying for 4.5 years, all at one time.
You'll still be saying them
in my sleep.
Instinctively,
in my sleep. Well, listen, last segment here. You said you wanted to say something, though, so I'll just hand you the mic, brother.
Well, with it being your last show, I, with the help of several amazing people, have put something together for you to end of the show. So,
oh no.
Hey Phil, congrats on the new job. We are super excited to see what the future holds, not only for you, but for the great state of Alabama. We will certainly miss having you on the radio every single day, but we're excited about what the future has in store. As always, stay controversial.
Phil, I have had so much fun over the past few years working with you at Rightside Radio and just being a part of everything there. You've been such a mentor to me, and you believed I could do something when I had no idea I could do it. But you just knew somehow after talking with me that I could do radio, and by God, I did. You have been kind to me. You have been supportive, and that's just who you are. You have a big heart, sir, and you're going to do fantastic things as a U.S. attorney, and I'm so excited for you and for what the years ahead have in store. Have a great last day, and make sure you keep up with us little people.
Hey Phil, it's Katie Britt here. I just wanted to say congratulations and join your friends and your family and your listeners and helping you celebrate your last day on air. Look, for the last 4.5 years, you have built up such a strong voice with Rightside Radio, and it has been a conservative go-to in the great state of Alabama. You will certainly be missed on the air. I will miss being on with you, but I am excited about your next chapter and wish you all the very best. God bless.
Hey guys, Jared Hudson here, and I just want to send this video to say thank you to my friend Phil Williams for everything he's done on Rightside Radio, and glad to see where he's headed to. We need men like him serving in our government, although we hate to see him leave Rightside Radio. Phil, fair winds and following seas, brother. Your haze gray and underway. Rangers lead the way. Good luck, brother. Thank you for all you've done, and thank you for your friendship.
Well, Phil, we hear that congratulations are in order for your nomination as the U.S. Attorney of the Northern District of Alabama. We are so proud of you and these steps that you're taking. We know that you're going to do an amazing, amazing job. We're just so honored to have been a part of this journey with Rightside Radio, with Rightside Media as a whole, back even when she and I were there for the very first episode. And we just know that you're going to kill it. And we just appreciate the time that you've spent doing this. And we know that this next step that you're going to take is really where the Lord's leading you. And we're praying for you. And we're just so excited to see where the Lord takes you.
Dad, I am so beyond proud of you. So excited for this next adventure you're going to step into. I know without a shadow of a doubt that you're going to do so well. That you're going to have just as big of an impact, if not more so, in this next step, this next role that the Lord has for you. Thank you for being an amazing role model for me my entire life, for always being willing to step into the hard things, to take on the hard tasks that the Lord has called you to, for being faithful and willing to be obedient to him in all things. So like Logan said, we will be praying. We'll be right beside you every step of the way. We're excited to see what the Lord does through you in this next role.
We love you.
Love you much.
Well, congratulations, Phil, on your nomination. And I am so thankful to have gotten to know you over the last few years through Rightside and through other ventures. What an honor to call you friend. And I'm excited to see where you go from here and the great things that you can do to continue, as is the theme of your life, to serve the people around you. Just remember, especially from your days of Rightside, WWJD. What would Jeff Rowe from Indiana do? Hey, if you can keep that in the front of your mind, I think you're going to be just fine taking care of the DOJ. So looking forward to great things coming from you and the great things you're going to do. And thank you so much for your servant heart and your willingness to serve your community, your nation, your family and friends.
Hey, buddy. Congratulations on your new appointment. I know you'll do a spectacular job there, just the same as you do here on the radio.
Oh.
But congratulations on your 4.5 years. Listened to you from day one, and we've talked almost every day for the last 4.5 years, and I'm really going to miss you. The only consolation is you've got my number and I've got yours, and if anytime you need some words of wisdom from Indiana, don't hesitate to pick up that phone and ask me. Might help you through a few cases. You never know. Have a good one, Phil.
That's something. That's something. Whew. Wow. Okay, that wore me out. Okay, I now I owe you, like, I don't know. You're too old for me to give you a whooping.
Sorry. I knew that would get, because it made me tear up making it. So there you go.
Well, that was huge, and thank you for doing that. There's nothing you couldn't have printed me a T-shirt or anything like that. That would have been better. I mean, that was awesome. So I'll say to you, brother, thank you for the last year. It's been a real joy to, like, watch you growing up. So y'all remember JP's my nephew, and we had this crazy moment at Christmas gathering for the family where your dad said, "Hey, could JP talk to you? He'd love to get into conservative politics and media and all that kind of stuff." And next thing I know, you came here and you were a game changer.
Well,
so love you.
I can't thank you enough for all that you've done for me in my career. And it has been a blast this last year and 3 weeks that I've been here at Rightside. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm very excited to watch what God does with you as U.S. Attorney. I'm very excited.
Well, I appreciate that. How much time have I got left, JP? About 1 minute. Well, let me just say this. This audience, I love you. I love you with the Lord's love, and I also love you as friends. You guys have become part of, like I said earlier, the fabric of our lives. And I have said on the air multiple times, I wanted this show to be about the mission and the message. I wanted to know for the last 4.5 years that I was doing something that would do what I call the mission, which is to educate, enlighten, empower, and entertain people on what it means to be a conservative walking around in today's crazy world. But the mission is driven by the message. And this show has always stood for, and always will, the idea that we can stand up and say, Jesus is Lord, America is great, Alabama is beautiful, and life's worth living. So I say all that to say, thank you for 4.5 years that I will never, ever forget, ever. You guys are an amazing audience, but you're more than that. You're a bunch of Rightside ruffians. And listen, I say it, and I'll say it one more time. There's way more of us than there are them. And God is still very much on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. Love you.